What is true Tantra and how is it different from sex? How to meet your soulmate, your divine partner. Encounter with extraterrestrials. How to get in contact with them. How do black magicians control the earth? The main weapon of the dark powers. How to deal with any life difficulties. Awakening hidden abilities and understanding the higher laws of the universe. The method of realizing any desire. Eco-village and the space of love. The ancient pagan wedding ritual and conception at the place of power. What a proper wedding should be like for a happy married life. You will find answers to all these questions in the new cartoon, Mystery, an Untold Story of Love. Here is everything you have been looking for.
The spring session at the university was safely over, and Ruslan and Arthur, sitting in the small kitchen of Ruslan's apartment, drank cool sodas and chatted relaxedly, discussing new music. Hey Russ, what's that song you're listening to? School, school, thank you? I don't think you've ever listened to something like that before.
I was in one interesting place. Do you remember when I told you about tantrics?
Yes, I remember you said you wanted some practice and met a girl there. What was her name? Karina, I think?
Angela. She's really cool, and what we do in class is just cosmos. I've never had that with any girl before.
What do you guys do in your classes? What, like sex?
No, not sex. We are practicing working with sexual energy. In pairs.
So interesting. So are they naked or what?
No, they've got clothes on. Do you want to go together? They have class again today.
Okay, why not? Cheerfully talking, they walked into the hall where the lecture was about to begin. There were a lot of people, and almost all the seats were occupied. Having found 2 free chairs, the guys paid attention to the stage where a beautiful tall woman came out, smoothly swaying her hips. Her long hair with golden curls waterfalled down her shoulders. Her bright green long dress swayed with every movement, emphasizing the grace and feminine curves of her body.
My name is Lyria. I'm very glad to see you in this hall. Bright souls who seek the true knowledge have gathered here. I see in your eyes love and aspiration to the truth. Many people think that Tantra is exotic sex, but it is not. Tantra is the art of living. Although it is believed that we live in an advanced civilization, even people with multiple degrees do not know the basic things. They don't know how to eat properly, and that's why they get sick. They don't know anything about the science of breathing, and therefore are constantly under stress. They don't know how to fall asleep properly or study the meanings of dreams. They don't know how to interact with each other properly and are in conflict. So Tantra is the art of living and knowing how to do anything correctly, whether it is business or prayer or meditation. To do them not just mechanically, but with awareness. To use any action, even bickering, as a spiritual practice. Tantra, among other things, teaches the proper interaction of the sexes and the use of sex for one's development.
Lyria's voice sounded like an iridescent mountain stream. Listening to her, Arthur was suddenly fascinated by this beautiful woman. He felt something great and at the same time very familiar, as if he'd found something he had been searching for a long time. Ruslan was also listening attentively to Lyra, although he was distracted from time to time, looking at the girls sitting in the hall.
I was taught by the priests in Khajuraho. There are some temples in India whose walls show pictures of intercourse. It proves that in the past, sex was treated like a prayer. Sexual partners worshipped each other and truly embodied the images of gods and goddesses. And lately, when barbarians conquered this highly developed civilization, they destroyed many of these temples. Until now, the priests and founders of Tantra have had to hide to protect themselves from persecution. Tibetan Buddhism still has images depicting Buddha and his tantric partner Tara's intercourse. These images point to the fact that Tantra used to be very common in previous times, though a large part of it has been forgotten nowadays. In India, they still make Shiva Linga statues, which represent an erect phallus conjoined with yoni, a female reproductive organ. In our country, it would be considered obscene and dirty, but Indians worship it, believing it to be Shiva's phallus in his wife Parvati's yoni. This demonstrates the fact that relations between sexes used to be seen as a way to God. Now, not all relations may be this way. For example, if the choice of partners is wrong, if there is no love between them, no harmony, if they cannot control their sexual energy, these relations will lead to the degradation of both, to their destroying of each other. This is why we will study how to make these relations a true way to God. We will learn Tantra as an art to perform any action in the practice of developing. We will begin by practicing finding our Ono-mi. Ono-mi is a creature of the opposite sex who exists in the subtle world and is the embodiment of the human ideal. To meet your true love in the physical world, you should first establish contact with your Ono-mi from the subtle world.
During Lyria's explanation, Arthur was eagerly catching every word she said. When she asked everyone to stand up, inviting them to practice, Arthur tried to relax and tune in as much as possible to the upcoming practice. Following the ringing and enchanting voice of the woman, he sank deep into himself and remembered the amazing, pure romantic feeling of elation, the sincere delight of the first youthful love. Suddenly, the boy felt the presence of someone good, light, beautiful, holy. The next moment, Arthur saw his ideal vividly and felt an emotional connection with it. He began to cry, experiencing a surge of joy, admiration for beauty, tenderness, and kindness. He cried with delight that he had found in himself what he had long sought and did not know where to find. He began to communicate with Onome, and beautiful poems were born in his heart, which he dedicated to her. Other people around were having similar experiences. Some, like Arthur, wept crystal tears of purification. Others had their faces illuminated by a brighter inner light, and still others felt emotions so strong that they felt a small shiver run through their bodies. When the practice was over, Lyria instructed the women present to choose a partner who resembled their ideal.
It is not a man who chooses, but a woman. A man is just seeking ways to satisfy his lust and picks the easiest available option. A woman looks for a worthy partner to live all her life with, and if she is not in a hurry to get married and does not care much about a ring and the other biases of society, then she will be much better at choosing an ideal partner, for she has an inborn sensitivity for this. In our society, it is the other way around. Women are taught to be passive and wait for the male to choose them. paying attention to only one aspect, whether or not he's already married. So now, during this practice, women should feel who is suitable for them and choose their soulmate themselves.
The hall was filled with enchanting music, and people began to dance, lining up in 2 circles, with the women having to look at their partners. Then each of them chose the man who most resembled Onome. A good-looking girl with silvery hair came up to Arthur.
I'm Alice.
Arthur. They began to do a joint asana ritual, trying to feel the movement of energy between their bodies. After that, they created a common reality, looking at each other with a parallel gaze and caressing each other with etheric hands. Arthur was enchanted by Alice, and they walked hand in hand out of the building where the classes were held. He decided to walk her home. On the way, he bought flowers for the girl and recited romantic poems that arose in him. He had never thought that he could fall in love so much during one evening, but Alice awakened in him very light, reverent feelings. He felt his soul waking up and reaching for this girl. He felt the desire to do something nice for Alice, to please her, to express his feelings. Then Arthur took the money he was saving for an expensive Japanese motorcycle and took Alice shopping, buying her jewelry, gifts, outfits, and anything else she wanted. In the evening, the lovers could not part for a long time. Alice called Arthur early in the morning.
Hi, honey. I'm going hiking with Lyria. Will you come with me?
Yes, of course, my love. I am ready to follow you to the edge of the world. Hello, Russ. Alice and I are going camping. Why don't you come with us and take Angela? Gathering at a designated spot at the beginning of a mountain trail that could only be traveled on foot or horseback, they waited for several other couples for Lyra. She appeared a few minutes later.
Greetings to you. My dear ones, we are going to practice Tantra right now, trying to be conscious in every action. Now, we have a long hike on a mountain road, and I give you the task not to be distracted by thoughts and empty conversations, but to contemplate the beauty of the surrounding places. Please take this difficult practice responsibly and seriously.
Oh, nothing could be easier. Arthur began to contemplate the nature with enthusiasm. He admired the snow-white mountain peaks in the distance, the mountain river flowing in the gorge below, the clouds floating in the sky, and the rhododendron bushes blooming on either side of the path. But very soon, he forgot himself and was about to start chatting with Alice. Alice! Shh. But she shushed him, and then he remembered what he wanted to contemplate. Arthur was surprised at how difficult it was for him to just look around without going into his thoughts. He kept forgetting that he had decided to do so and couldn't think of it without Lyra reminding him. So that's why I remember so little of my life. After all, I sleep all the time. What can I accomplish if I can't even do such a simple task? By evening, they reached a mountain lake of amazing beauty, surrounded on 3 sides by snow-capped mountain peaks. Its crystal ice-cold water reflected the tall fir trees growing along its shores. From one of the slopes, a bubbling waterfall fell into the lake in the distance, and right next to the travelers, a swift mountain stream rushed noisily down the rocks from the lake.
Now we will set up camp as consciously as you were before. Talk to each other only for business. You are to pitch your tents, gather firewood, draw water from the spring. And while you are doing this, observe your body movements, your thoughts and emotions. Don't lose your awareness. And to help you, I will sometimes say stop. Then, you will need to freeze in place and not move for a while. This will help you remember the task at hand.
Everyone readily began to settle in, trying not to fall asleep in their thoughts. When they heard the
Stop.
They froze, and their gazes immediately became clearer, more focused. Arthur froze too, keeping the same expression on his face, the direction of his gaze, his posture, feeling his breath. He was suddenly surprised to find that he had lived all his life without remembering himself, without seeing or realizing that he was doing everything completely mechanically, like a robot, without being aware of his thoughts and movements. In the evening, when it was dark, they all sat around a cozy, crackling fire. Lyra explained briefly how to eat properly.
Eat slowly, savoring the flavor of the food.
Silently, after the prayer, they began to eat, savoring the taste of the food and chewing it thoroughly. Arthur realized that even though he considered himself a cultured man, he ate like an animal, indiscriminately shoving hot dogs and fast food into his body, undermining his health, and not understanding what he was doing and how he was eating. After dinner, the guys and girls started singing songs and telling interesting stories. Suddenly, someone pointed up into the sky, and, looking up, everyone froze in amazement. Right above their heads, a real UFO was moving across the dark sky. The flying saucer stopped, hovered above them, and a few seconds later, it swerved and veered sharply in a left, moving away from its previous trajectory.
And I was abducted by aliens as a child. And after that, I began to see the auras of people and objects.
A mystical, mysterious atmosphere was created around the campfire. Garlands of stars dotted the skies. Fireflies flew around, cicadas crackled, and a warm, fresh wind blew. The big, round moon looked majestically at the people, illuminating the space with a mysterious cold light. After admiring this splendor, Arthur and Alice went to their tent to sleep.
Darling, today you and I are going to practice mate kuna. But don't be in a hurry, because sex should also be a spiritual practice.
Arthur looked at his beloved with tenderness and awe, feeling the passion inside, as a powerful flow of sexual energy was coming from the girl. But this passion was not like what he had felt before with other girls. It was backed up by a deep feeling. He felt his soul reaching out to Alice. He felt that everything would be different with this girl. Every minute with her was filled with meaning. Arthur knew that he would remember this night for the rest of his life. Alice woke up in the morning and didn't find Arthur near her, and she came out of the tent. The sun had not yet risen from the horizon, and there was a thick, milky white mist in the lowlands surrounding the mountain slopes. She found Arthur sitting on a bank in a very depressed state.
Honey, are you feeling bad?
The boy raised his head and looked at his beloved with unspeakable pain. Their gazes met, and Alice could almost physically feel his regret, his anger at himself, and his guilt.
I've spoiled everything. Forgive me, my love, if you can. I shouldn't have. I couldn't control myself. I lost my head and allowed such a stupid drain of sexual energy.
Don't worry so much, honey. Yes, you had an orgasm. And, as a tantric, you shouldn't have let it happen. But you are just beginning to learn Tantra. It takes practice to learn to control your sexual energy.
So you are not angry with me for what happened?
Of course not, sweetheart. It's hard enough to do it right the first time. But we'll do the ritual of Mate Kuna again when you're ready and can control your energy better.
Arthur smiled back, and in his gaze his admiration for this girl, tenderness, and sincere reverent love shone with renewed vigor.
And what did you feel after the orgasm?
Emptiness and weakness. It was a very strong drain of energy. I even felt for a moment that my feelings for you were dulled. There was so much indifference, so much apathy. It was unpleasant, and I just wanted to turn away and fall asleep.
I understood your feelings, my love. That's why we learn to manage our sexual energy, to restrain ourselves and control its flows. The main thing is that you should draw the necessary conclusions from this experience.
You know, I suddenly realized that all my feelings, emotions, experiences are based on unrealized sexual energy, and without it they are immediately dulled, and there is only indifference and pain in the lower abdomen from de-energization.
That's a very valuable conclusion. So, you didn't live yesterday's experience in vain. Would you like to go for a swim? The cold water of this lake at the place of power would help to cheer up and cleanse yourself of negative impressions.
The boy got up from the ground, threw off his clothes, and slowly entered the scalding cold water. He was floating in the fog, in a peculiar state. It seemed to him that right now he was in some unearthly mystical space. When he came out of the water, he felt energized and invigorated. A wave of goosebumps ran through his body. The harsh aftertaste left by Mate Kuna's unsuccessful practice was completely gone.
Hush! Look!
Arthur looked in that direction and was stunned. The outline of someone's huge face was clearly visible in the fog.
What is that?
It's the spirit of the land, Ayami.
They prayerfully folded their hands in reverence, greeting her. And then the image began to slowly dissolve into the air. Arthur felt better than ever. He began to realize how hard it was to live in the city, and that nature brought him closer to God. Returning home to a sublime state, Arthur sat down to watch TV as a habit, then went to the internet and caught himself watching entertainment videos uncontrollably. And again, as after the first visit to the tantric class, after 2 hours of sitting in front of the screen, he felt that the sublime emotions were leaving. Instead of subtle experiences, the same old meaningless state arose in him.
So why are TV and the internet so effective? What's the matter? Perhaps it is better not to watch TV or go on the internet at all, if it deprives me of the sublime states.
I've brought something. Look! He pulled a litter jar full of mushrooms with dotted red caps from behind his back with a solemn look.
Are you out of your mind? Why did you bring them to me?
You don't know anything. These are not poisonous mushrooms as people think of them. They are guides to the subtle plane. In ancient times, they were taken by the Magi, and they are still eaten by shaman. Try them, and you'll see for yourself. But the main thing is not to eat them just like that. Otherwise, you will see nothing but hallucinations. Tune into something you want to know, to see, and Fly Agaric will reveal it to you. Arthur looked at his friend skeptically at first, but seeing his seriousness and determination, he decided to give it a try.
Yes. What am I doing? Okay. Let it be so.
The friends began to eat the mushrooms carefully, but first Arthur tried to tune into the subtle plane and understand why he was so influenced by the television, which was just working on the pedestal, showing another series. Soon, Arthur felt that everything in front of him swam, became somehow transparent, unreal. He stared at the screen of the working TV and saw his energy flowing there as he watched. Through his eyes, it was going somewhere into the screen, and from the screen an endless stream of numbers and letters was coming at him. He decided to figure out what it was, and suddenly he heard a voice giving him directions.
You can't live without TV. You want to be like everyone else. You are easily influenced by everything. You don't have the strength to resist. You don't have an opinion. You do what you are told.
Unable to bear it any longer, Arthur made an attempt to smash the zombie TV, but his body did not obey him, and he simply turned away, so as not to see this stream of stupefying compulsion.
You are easily influenced by everything.
And then he began to have various visions, and in one of them he saw a huge Fly Agaric that was smiling at him. Then worms began to crawl out of it. They gnawed at the mushroom until it completely disintegrated into small pieces. When Arthur came to his senses after the vision, he felt sick and vomited. After that, he saw his friend Ruslan sitting on the sofa with a green face and fear in his eyes. As it turned out, he had a nightmare.
I saw myself as a sick old man, and how I died and lived in the grave as a corpse.
Arthur shared his vision, and Ruslan agreed that he too had experienced similar things after watching TV. Coming to the university the next day for an organizational meeting, the friends went to the assembly hall, where several streams of students, teachers, and even the rector had already gathered. When they saw that the podium was free, Arthur climbed onto the stage, took the microphone, and emotionally addressed the people.
Friends, I want to warn you. Don't watch TV. It is a zombie machine. It takes away your energy and transmits to you the attitudes of the authorities who want to keep you in line so that you do not think and are will-less sheep dancing to their tune. I don't know what they do. Maybe they use the 25th frame, but we are constantly being drugged from the screen.
Give me the microphone. Get off the stage at once. You better study hard for the session. What do you know, you C student?
What are you talking about? I get dumb after every session because of your cramming. You clog our brains with useless, not applicable in life knowledge. What you can read in a reference book or look up in an internet search. There's no need to cram. It's dulling. It would be better to teach us to think creatively, to develop logic, to solve riddles. But you think thinking is dangerous, don't you?
Get him out of here.
Two sturdy men in uniforms marked security immediately went to Arthur and, climbing onto the stage, began to drag him off. In the meantime, There was a general clamor, noise, and applause in the hall. "Well done! That's right! That's it!" With the general clamor, Arthur was led out of the hall, and Rustlin followed him to support his friend.
Way to go, man. Well done. By the way, I was thinking, we have a rap festival coming up in the city. Do you want me to arrange for you to perform there before the concert?
Wow, you can do that?
I know one of the organizers. I'll talk to him about it. I think he won't mind.
On the appointed day, Arthur came to Alice's house and invited her to the rap festival.
I want to invite you to Rap Festival. I'll be performing there. Rustlin has already arranged it. He's waiting for us.
Okay.
They took a cab and drove to the place, but at the crossroads, something terrible happened. A truck crashed into them at full speed. Arthur saw with his side vision how the huge truck flew straight at their car. The last thing Arthur felt was an attack of sharp burning pain. Then there was tinnitus and a sensation of being pulled into a tunnel. He found himself hovering above the intersection. He could see the crumbled car and his mangled body lying next to it. It had flown through the windshield during the car crash. He saw 3 men nearby and immediately realized that they were the ones responsible for the accident. He knew their thoughts. These people worked in the Secret Service and were just now calling to report to their superiors. Arthur wanted to know who was behind all this, so he was instantly transported to a scientific laboratory. There were many different devices in the room, and in the very center of the room, there was a tube with a socket extending to the end. He realized that it was a psychotronic generator. A man was sitting in front of the tube and speaking the setting that Arthur had already heard when he ate the mushroom. A general was standing next to it, talking on the phone to the bastards who had caused the accident.
Where am I?
The knowledge came to him that this is a closed research institute from where the zombie influence is transmitted to all TV channels, the internet, and cellular communication. At that moment, the guy felt as if he was being sucked into some tunnel again, and he woke up in the intensive care unit. Arthur recovered quickly. He had a severe concussion and head injury. As soon as he recovered enough to be able to walk, he immediately ran away from the ward and started looking for Alice, despite the severe dizziness and nausea. Rustlin met him and told him that things were bad.
Alice had been trapped in the car, and it had taken a long time to get her out. Her spine was damaged, and her legs were paralyzed.
Having more or less returned to normal, Arthur felt that now he simply had no right to stop fighting, that he had to open people's eyes to what the authorities were doing to them, how they were being zombified and indoctrinated with slave programs using a psychotronic generator. Then he went to the university again and, going into one classroom where there were 200 students, began to tell them about his experience of clinical death and what he had seen. But no sooner had he finished his story than security guards and orderlies rushed into the auditorium. "Don't touch him! Let him go!"
We want to listen to him.
"Yes!
Enough of making fools of us.
We want to know the truth!" They grabbed Arthur, put him in a straitjacket, and took him to a mental hospital. Lyra came to Alice when she heard of her grief. Alice, who was sitting in a wheelchair, burst into tears when she saw her.
Don't be upset, dear.
Why is this happening to me? I must have bad karma and have been a terrible sinner in my past life.
No, my dear. Difficult situations are not a sign of bad karma. After all, God created us as we are. He created the world as it is. And if someone sins, then it's God's fault too.
Maybe it is the devil who has created such severe sufferings for me.
Yes, the devil creates them, but he does not act on his own. He does only what God permits. If the devil were acting on his own, then God would not be omnipotent and omniscient if he had so carelessly created Satan. But God allows suffering so that we may reflect on life, learn to see things correctly, and become wiser. Because if there were no evil, we would always stay in a careless, meaningless state, not even thinking about the meaning of life, not striving to change ourselves and develop.
What should I realize?
Each lesson is deep and multifaceted. I can't explain it in 2 words. But think about it. You suffer from comparison. You compare your present self with your former self, yourself with others. If you were born disabled and everyone around you was the same, you wouldn't have to worry about it. Let go of comparisons. Live in the here and now. And you also suffer, like any healthy person who is doing well, from thinking about yourself, worrying about yourself. Try to think about others, what good you can do for them, how you can help them. Right now, I want to publish a magazine about Tantra and spirituality and things like that. You can be a journalist, an editor, work at the computer. You will help a lot of people to develop.
I'm afraid that Arthur will not love me anymore now. That no one will want me.
That could have happened even if you were healthy. We're not immune to trouble and misfortune. But if you can rightly accept this hard lesson from God, maybe your situation will change.
How? How can it change now?
Calm down, my dear. God works in mysterious ways, but we will all help you in any way we can. And you'd better think not about suffering and possible blows of fate, but about how you can help people, how you will love them and the whole world more and more every day. Then there will be fewer bad situations. Believe me. Here, take this flash drive. There is spiritual music recorded here that will help you in this difficult moment. Try to turn your suffering into compassion for people.
After Lyra left, Alice opened the flash drive in her laptop and began listening to a concert of spiritual chants. The song, "God Will Not Give Us Burdens Beyond Our Strength," was especially helpful. Tears of purification flowed down Alice's cheeks. A light, elevated state appeared, in which it became easier for her to accept her situation and tune in to love and help people.
When Ruslan found out that Arthur had been released from the mental hospital, he went to visit him.
What's the matter with you, friend? I'm fine. I was sick. Now I'm better.
Hey, buddy, you said it was a hell of a pipe, didn't you? Do you remember your speech at the university?
Remember anything like that?
Then, Ruslan realized that the mental hospital had done a good job on Arthur and made him a real zombie.
Let's go to a place. I know people who can help you. Well, let's go.
They came to the hall where a lecture was going on. It was led by a dark-haired, middle-aged woman. Her name was Naya. At the end of the lecture, Ruslan approached Naya and explained the situation with Arthur. Naya called him over and laid him on a couch on the stage, and in front of the entire audience began to conduct a gyud session.
Arthur, you hear my voice and you relax. You hear my voice and you fall asleep. Now, Arthur, go to the nearest past. What happened to you in the mental hospital?
They gave me an injection and I fell asleep. When I woke up, there was a man in a suit standing over me, with doctors standing next to him. He began to hypnotize me. He told me that I really like watching TV, that I don't remember what they did when I was in a state of clinical death. That I don't remember what I said from the stage to people.
Good. Now you remember everything well again, and your previous thinking and state comes back to you fully. I'm going to count to 10, and you're coming out of your altered state of consciousness in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, Ruslan, am I here? God, thank you, Naya. You saved me.
Arthur told Naya about Alice's situation, what he had seen during the clinical death, and asked for her help.
I can't help you, but I do know someone who can. It's Prajna. She lives far away from civilization, in a cave high up in the mountains.
After Arthur's departure to Prajna, Lyria visited Alice again. She was sitting in a wheelchair and listening to divine chants in a blissful state.
How are you doing, my dear?
I feel better. These divine chants are helping me a lot. My soul is floating in grace, and as long as I listen to them, I'm happy and my situation recedes far away. I even begin to think that it is not accidental, but sent to me to make me closer to God. But I don't understand. Why is there so much evil in the world? Why don't all people want to abide in grace and love? Where does so much evil and hatred come from if God is love?
The thing is, my dear, when divine love is narrowed, when it's limited by the ignorant ego, all kinds of negative emotions arise from it, and from them, all evil.
But how?
You love yourself, you love Arthur, and your love is narrowed by that, confined to you and your lover. And you become afraid for yourself, for your relationship, jealous, resentful, if you think he's looking at someone else or paying less attention to you. But even that fear, that jealousy, it's still arising from love. And it is the same love, only it's been narrowed and closed on a single person or a small group of people. When you love someone, or even something, so much, you have greed for that person or object. You have envy. Envy that someone has more, that someone gets more of your loved one's attention. But this is also a manifestation of the same divine love. And if we open it, without limiting it to only one object or one person, it will shine with grace again. And so-called positive emotions, such as pride or arrogance, conceit, smugness, even gloating, arise from the opposition of self and others, one's own and others. But these emotions can quickly turn negative, into anger or hatred if the other person tramples on your pride. But even pride, too, it's nothing more than divine love, closed only on yourself or what you consider to be rightfully yours. You should try to remove this painful fixation if you can, this limitation, this ego, and then all negative emotions will turn into God's love. If you feel negativity, think what lies and identifications are limiting divine love and making you suffer, and then simply remove them to abide in grace.
Thank you. You help my soul so much. Without you, I would still be sobbing inconsolably over what happened. But now, I feel God is with me.
Arthur and Ruslan's off-road vehicles traveled along a broken mountain road. The journey was very difficult and challenging. But the friends did not lose heart, and finally reached the place Naya had told them about. Do you think this is the place?
I think it is. There's the lake, and into it falls the waterfall of 3 streams, just as Naya described. But where is the cave? Oh, look, Arthur. Do you see bats? They live in caves, so it is where they fly.
The friends climbed up to a rock ledge and found a grotto there. As they walked along it, they saw a silhouette at the back of the cave. They shined the flashlight on a woman with long hair. It was Prajna. Arthur described the whole situation to her in detail and asked for help.
Yes, you are close to solving this mystery. The fact is that the Earth is ruled by a small group of black magicians. They are also called the Devil's Servants, and they operate through the secret services. And different presidents and ministers are just pawns in their hands. Today, they act through mass media, and earlier, they acted through religions. As people fanatically believed in the ministers of cults, they put their priests in charge, and those priests perverted the essence of religions, turning them into formal rituals, saying that one could just go to church on Sundays, put candles out, read prayers in the evenings, and that would be enough for spiritual development. They removed from religion the most important things that allow the development of the human soul. This perversion led to the emergence of jihad, crusades, inquisition, the destruction of dissenters. But still, there are people who keep the true knowledge. I see that you are light souls, and it is possible for you to reach the true understanding.
After listening to Prajna's explanation, the friends drew their attention to a small portrait standing in a corner of the cave.
Who is that?
This is my master. When you are ready, he will appear to you. In the meantime, prepare for the retreat, the great practice of pratyahara, which will reveal your hidden powers. The fact is that the flow of information that acts on our senses prevents us from revealing clairvoyance and other abilities. Now contemplate the lake. Visualize something pleasant and joyful. Feel the state of your body. Feel your aura. Now remember this state, and to reproduce it easily, make an anchor. Put your index finger and thumb together and chant Om, linking this state mentally with that anchor. Now, I want you to imagine something unpleasant that is troubling you.
Arthur remembered the conflict with the rector and the bitter truth about the actions of the secret services, and an unpleasant feeling arose in his chest. His body tensed, his breathing became constricted, and an unpleasant clot of energy appeared in his aura as if in front of his chest.
Now, it is necessary to push this state out of you, this hostile twist of energy. Take a breath, and on the exhalation, sharply strike mentally at this state, at the negative energy in your aura, shouting, "Ha!" Do this several times, visualizing an energy beam coming from the body and destroying the hostile phantom of the evil spirit. Negative sans contact. Now, I want you to make your anchor just as you did before and enter a harmonious state.
The friends folded their fingers and chanted Om and entered a harmonious state of peace.
This way, if something does happen, you now know what to do. But try not to be affected by anything, by cultivating detachment.
Then Prajna showed them a ritual of mudras, by which they were to raise Kundalini and open the chakras to enter the subtle plane while being in Pratyahara. Prajna showed special breathing and physical exercises, explained how to do purges during fasting, how to meditate, and escorted the friends to 2 caves where they were to have a retreat practicing Pratyahara.
When a person is in a dark cave in the place of power and fasts for 40 days, they no longer have external impressions, and hidden sensitivity and telepathy begin to awaken in them. The third eye opens. Due to fasting, the subtle channels are cleansed, and a person feels energy and their subtle body better. They can even learn to leave the physical body. In the cave, the subtle plane will be revealed to you. But whatever you see, remain calm and detached. The lower spirits want to frighten, seduce, excite a person with their images, and then feed on that person's energy. They can even drive a person crazy. Therefore, one must maintain a detached contemplation.
Arthur saw ancient rituals of priests, bizarre spirits of the dead floating around him. He realized he could tune in and see what he wanted. And then Arthur tuned in and saw the black magicians ruling the world. Gathered together, they were plotting to zombify people, to create more misery and suffering in the world.
We've already started incurable diseases, AIDS. We need to invent new diseases that kill people. Allocate funds for our research institute to create new viruses.
His practice continued, and one day his whole cave was illuminated by a shimmering light. A glowing ball of light flew into it. The light softly condensed, and the very man he had seen in Prajna's portrait materialized in front of Arthur. Are you Bhagavan?
Yes, you have already learned clairvoyance, but you do not know what you should try to see. All earthly knowledge is nothing before the most important thing, the vision of God. And He is not somewhere. He is in you, in your heart. And the way to Him is love. When it reaches a great intensity in you, God will awaken in you. Now feel love for the whole world. Now I will intensify this feeling of God's awakening in you with my energy so that you know what to strive for.
He touched Arthur's chest with his fingers, and he felt a great, all-embracing love. And then the divine awakened in him. He himself, the walls of the cave, Bhagavan. Everything around him was God, from atoms to galaxies. A sense of sacred awe overwhelmed him. But Bhagavan withdrew his finger, and Arthur's previous state of mind returned.
God is love. He who abides in love abides in God.
Then the faint light of a candle flickered in the cave, and Arthur heard Prajna's voice.
Enough, my son. It is time to come out of the cave. But for now, get used to the candlelight so you don't get blinded by the light of the sun.
After leaving the cave, Arthur met Ruslan, and the friends shared their impressions. However, after the friends came out of the retreat, a flood of external impressions fell upon them, and gradually their abilities began to disappear. And when they came out of the hunger strike and went on a normal diet, all the subtle states disappeared altogether.
You have a long way to go to make what you have experienced your own. But I will wait for you again. Now, go back to your homeland and pass on your knowledge to others.
In parting, Prajna taught them the practices that would help cure Alice, and gave them instructions to pass on to the people. Enriched by the new spiritual experience, the friends set out on their journey back. When he arrived home, Arthur rushed to Alice.
My love, I know how to help you.
Don't reassure me. If you stay with me, I don't need anything else. I accept this test from God.
We're going to be all right. Know this.
Alice showed him how she makes a journal to communicate ideas that are important to people.
Write an article that you will create an eco-settlement in the holy place, where we will protect ourselves and our children from the corrosive influence of the Dark Ones through television. And we will live, improving spiritually, creating a space of love around us, realizing God.
Arthur told his beloved all that he had experienced in the cave, and what he had learned from Prajna. Alice was glad for him, and happy that he was with her again. The next day, Arthur and Ruslan gathered all the people they knew from Lyria and Naya's group, as well as other people who were not indifferent to spirituality, in one of the halls of the cultural center. Arthur went on stage and told people about his journey. Ruslan occasionally added to his story.
Prajna told me an amazing method of realizing any desire, any good intention. She said that together, a group of like-minded people is a great power. And if you unite the energy of the people of the group in one aspiration, you can solve any problem. The main thing is to tune in together to one goal and to wish very strongly that it will be realized, praying to God. And if it will be sincere, from the heart, with faith and strong emotions, the common energy of the group will create a phantom that will realize their intention.
Arthur put people in a circle and showed them how to hold hands. He told them the story of Alice, showed her photo, and asked them to tune in to help her. They began to cultivate a common intention by repeating the healing mantra Dajita given by Prajna. For an entire hour they prayed and tuned in with tears in their eyes. And oh, a miracle! At that very time, Alice felt a powerful wave of energy pass through her body. She felt the heat and vibration, and then she began to feel her legs. After the circle healing prayer, Arthur rushed to Alice without even saying goodbye to the group. But when he saw her in her wheelchair, he was stunned.
How come? Did the ritual not work and you'll be crippled forever?
No, that's not so. Calm down, honey. I sat there and suddenly I felt a wave go down my spine and I could feel my legs. I could even wiggle my toes.
We're gonna do another ritual and it's gonna help you. It will.
The next day, he and Ruslan began to gather the people again, telling them what a wonderful effect their first group prayer had had. However, not everyone wanted to come again.
Well, it doesn't mean anything. It's not like she's back on her feet.
We knew it wouldn't help. We didn't want to waste time on it.
Please wait, I beg you.
This time Alice wanted to attend the ritual herself. Ruslan gave them a ride in his car. Arthur lifted Alice in his arms and they entered the hall. The girl was seated in the center of the circle, and the people in the group began to perform a ritual, praying and repeating the healing mantra Tajita, directing their energy to Alice and bringing down the divine flow. Arthur immediately ran up and grabbed her hand happily.
My love, have you recovered? Can you walk now?
No, not yet. I can still feel weakness in my legs, but I felt again as if an electric shock went through my spine and legs, and I realized that I could stand up. Thank you, everyone, for helping me. I am grateful for this difficult situation, for it has opened my eyes to life. And this was the smallest payment for the great revelation I received. I used to consider myself a spiritual person, but secretly, even afraid to admit it to myself, I was more attached to my partner, to my career, to my well-being. And then I saw that I could lose it all in a moment, that it did not belong to me, that God gives it all, and everything depends on Him. And I realized that this situation arose because I had put other things above God. I didn't give serious importance to my development. I was looking for happiness outside of myself. But that was self-deception. And now, in this situation, I began to pray, to cultivate sublime emotions and love for everything with the help of Holy Chants. And I felt great grace and happiness in my heart. And now, no one can take this state away from me, for it depends only on my attunement to the highest. And even after the death of the physical body, this jewel will remain with me in the post-mortem. And I urge you, my dear ones, to see by my example the impermanence, the fragility of everything in this world. Gather the treasure in your heart. The jewel is in the union of your soul with God.
Arthur and Ruslan gathered people several more times for this spiritual practice. And finally, Alice began to walk. There was no limit to the joy of her friends and gratitude to God. And the whole group was happy that they were able to help Alice in her grief.
Darling, I found that Lyria and the guys are going to the countryside. I'd like to go too, because I'm already walking.
My precious, will you be able to reach the place? To get there, you may have to walk a couple of kilometers on the trail. And you should take care for now.
Yes, I feel like I will. I want to be in nature so badly.
All right. Ruslan and I will support you on both sides. And if anything happens, I'll carry you. I'm so glad you're getting better, my love.
Honey, I can walk again. I can see this beauty. I am so happy, and I thought I was going to spend my life in a wheelchair in a room and see nature only in pictures. Yes, hearing the Dajita mantra and the circle healing prayer worked wonders.
They came to a clearing where all of Lyria's students were sitting around a fire.
Alice! Me first.
Alice!
I'm first. Alice.
great.
Hooray. Oh my god. I'm so happy. It's so good to see you.
We're so glad you're doing well. I want to tell you something important. I realize that we are slaves of the physical body and have to live its life, to depend on it all the time, to spend all our strength to serve it, to look for food, shelter, clothes, medicine, and many other things. And this identification with the body and its needs makes people greedy for food, clothing, shelter, transportation. For this body, people have to fight each other for these resources, for its life and well-being. To fight, to hate each other, to envy if someone has more, to take offense because of it, to experience fear that they may lose something belonging to the body. That's where all evil comes from, everything. And I ask you, do not identify with the bodily things. Live as the aspirations of your soul. Although, of course, you should make sure that the body is healthy. Do the Katis of the Sampo system, which will help you to be healthy, because only a healthy body allows our soul to live and develop harmoniously.
I'm glad, my dear, that you have passed this lesson of God with such dignity, that you have learned so many truths from it. That must be why God has brought you back to health so quickly. Let us all pray together and thank Him for this miracle.
Afterwards, sitting around the campfire, people started having fun, telling anecdotes and interesting stories. The husband is lying on the couch, watching TV. And his wife says to him,
"Our daughter smokes, drinks, doesn't sleep at home, and recently they found a syringe with drugs on her."
It's no big deal.
The husband replies calmly, waving away as if nothing is going on. A month later, the husband again lies on the couch, and the wife again tells him,
"Our daughter does not smoke, does not drink, sleeps at home, reads some prayers."
Oh, so she's in a cult. We must save her,
the husband said and jumped up from the couch. Everyone went swimming in the beautiful mountain lake. Alice went into the water with tears.
I already thought I would never swim again.
God loves you. He will not leave you in trouble.
Joyful and happy, splashing like a child, she went ashore. Arthur met her with a large bouquet of mountain flowers.
"Here, this is for you, my love."
the sunset. Sit down and purify your true self from identification with the mind, body, and emotions. Look at them from the outside. Study how the being in which you live is organized.
In this miraculous moment, it was as if Arthur had a gap between him and some observer he could not define, realizing that this was the true him, and he had always been only him, not his receptacle in the form of a physical body.
How strange. What kind of man is this that I live in? I don't like him very much. I wouldn't want to live in him. He's so stupid, willful, weak. All made up of habits and complexes. Why do I live in it? Can I change him? But he doesn't want to, he'll resist. And how can I change him? After all, if I fall asleep again and consider myself this person, it will be impossible to change. I will forget about this desire and will live the contradictory desires of the stranger, thinking that it is me. I'm fed up with him. Why should I live his life instead of my own life of pure spirit? Everything about this stranger is so mechanical. He's so rigid. A puppet of external influences, a somnambulist. There is nothing genuine, nothing real about him. God, it's horrible to live in this corpse I thought I was. God, there are people like that all around me. I don't know who they really are. I'm living among puppets, zombies. How scary it is.
People had finished meditating and were going about their business, preparing for sleep. He walked around them in exultation, seeing that everyone around him was asleep, completely fused with alien shells, dreaming alien thoughts, reacting mechanically, taking offense, laughing. It seemed to him that he had entered an enchanted realm.
What's the matter with you, buddy?
He turned around, but found it difficult to answer his friend. Then Lyria saw Arthur's condition.
Don't disturb him yet. He had found himself. Reality had revealed itself to him.
Looking at Lyria, Arthur saw that she was in the same state as he was. Only she had apparently gotten the hang of it, and could act in it as if nothing much was going on. She was not sleeping like everyone else, so she understood what was happening to him.
Be in this state as much as possible.
In the morning, he woke up in his usual state and found that Alice had carefully covered him with a plaid. She sat beside him and watched over his sleep.
I'm sorry, love. I couldn't come to you last night and go to bed. I had an insight.
I know. Don't worry, sweetheart, Alice said affectionately. Lyria told me that you had reached awakening, but you were not yet accustomed to it and were in exaltation. I was in the tent, but I was awake, worried about you and whether you were cold. And when I heard that you fell asleep, I covered you and I was sitting there, waiting for you to wake up.
I've lost that state since this morning. I'm having trouble even remembering what it was like.
Don't worry, darling. This is the first glimpse. Gradually, you'll reach it forever. Lyria told me. It's dawn. Are you going to have breakfast?
I love you so much.
Arthur and Alice decided to get married and live together, but they didn't want to have an ordinary wedding with drunken relatives and other common things. They decided to undergo an ancient pagan ritual that would cement their union on a subtle level. When they learned that Mira could perform such a ritual, they went to her. Before dawn, Arthur, Alice, and their friends, as well as Naya, rode on horseback to the place of power. The newlyweds were dressed in the robes of ancient priests, as were their attendants. They rode through a beautiful oak forest until they came upon a huge, mossy, dark green stone. In awestruck silence, they walked around it 3 times and immediately felt the power of this place.
This megalith is the same age as the dolmens. The priests used to perform their great mysteries on it, and now it will help you.
The lovers plunged into some ancient, unearthly state, as if they had been transported to millennia ago. But now, everything was silent. Mira performed the ritual, and Arthur and Alice, holding hands, waited for the sun. And then the rays of the sun descended on the young ones. At the same moment, they felt a powerful burst of energy, felt that they had become one being from particles of shimmering light. On the center part of the stone where the altar had been placed, the illuminated gifts were laid. And during the festivities around the fire, each one took their gift and presented it to Alice and Arthur with good wishes. Unlike an ordinary wedding, no one was drunk. Everyone was in an elevated and solemn state of mind.
You see, people can have fun without vodka as joyfully as children do. Only a false personality with its roles prevents them from being free, makes them afraid of each other. One should be in one's own essence and not be a slave to the roles imposed by a sick society.
Yes, friends, I feel so light and happy. I didn't want to get married thinking about a drunken wedding that made me sick. I thought, why on such a solemn day should everyone lose their human form, explaining to themselves that they couldn't have fun without it? Is it really necessary to become an animal to celebrate?
That's right. Because we're creating a program, a plan for all our life. And what kind of program is that if all the guests are drunk and out of control? Fighting, lying on top of each other, and then everyone is vomiting? That's why people in marriage have become so unhappy. That's why the number of divorces is growing. At the feast, everyone ate light, specially prepared raw food. Only Ruslan didn't touch the food at all. Hey, what's the matter with you? I'm preparing to die. How to die? Oh, really? You're kidding, right? Yes, to die. I wanted to take you with me, but you're getting married.
Why die? Why?
Why? You know, there are dolmens nearby. They were special tombs where every initiate went through the ritual of dying. That is, separating themselves from everything alien, imposed by society and upbringing. This ancient ritual helps to find your essence and yourself outside of all these lies that were imposed on me. That I am Russian, son, grandson, brother, brother-in-law, matchmaker, student, friend, enemy. All these are just my roles, not myself. I lost myself among these roles and external impressions, images, advertising, movies, books, other people's views, habits, reactions. Interesting. I want to go with you too, but perhaps next time. Why don't you eat? I've been fasting for about 40 days now to cleanse myself before the practice. Otherwise, it won't be deep enough. So, I invite you on a wedding trip. The friends began to prepare themselves, eager to see the dolmen and what Ruslan would do there. Naya, who had suggested this spiritual practice to him, also went with them.
I'll be on duty at the dolmen while Ruslan is dying, to meet him from the other side of the world.
They got into the jeep and drove along a picturesque mountain road. The friends began to climb uphill. And now, on the top of the mountain, the travelers saw several dolmens, and in the distance, they could see the snow-covered peaks of the mountains.
This is the place of power. This is where the ancient priests conducted their rituals. Gorgiev had been here once, when he was traveling from Mykop to Tiflis.
The place radiated wonderful power and peace. Ruslan received Naya's last instructions, said goodbye to his friends, and went inside the dolmen. Ruslan lay down, relaxed, and felt a special energy coming from the ground. He began to tune into death and read the Atlantean prayer.
I, born here, in the body's prison strangled.
I, in a web of desires, entangled.
I, bound by human lies. O heaven, to you I direct my eyes. I was for suffering created. I, for slavery here, accommodated. I am the adobe of barren dreams. To you, O eternity, my appeal streams.
It is not known how much time passed, but at one moment, Ruslan clearly sensed that he was not alone here. Gradually, the room began to light up with a dim glow, and he noticed that there were some dwarfs sitting in the four corners.
Who are you? We are the priests of the dolmens. We were the ones who built them thousands of years ago and performed our rituals in them.
Why are you still alive so long?
Our bodies are long dead, and you are lying on our bones. But we are here in thin bodies.
And what did you come here for?
We have come to help you, for you have repeated our prayer, which the Atlanteans gave us. If you understand its meaning, the truth will be revealed to you.
Ruslan was just about to ask something when the dwarf put his finger to his mouth and spoke softly.
Now, you will see the ancient ritual of Sampo. It will help you to separate your essence from your personality. It will help you to make your personality begin to die, and you to resurrect.
The dwarf waved his hand, and he and Ruslan found themselves outside the dolmen, on top of the mountain.
What is it?
We've been transported back thousands of years when our civilization lived here.
Then, 12 more masked dwarfs appeared in the clearing, and another sat on a dais and watched the others. At first, the dwarfs lined up in a triangle, and then they danced a bizarre ancient dance, spinning around each other and exchanging masks to the unusual music.
What does this mean?
These are your 12 major roles you play in life. They are all within you. But when you find yourself in a certain group, in a certain situation, you play one of them. And, unfortunately, you can't help but play it. Every situation, every collective evokes one of the roles in you. And other people in that collective play opposite roles. But you do all this unconsciously, like puppets. And you are slaves to these roles. Cosmic influences control society, which controls the collective. And the collective forces the individual to play the desired role.
How do you get free of it?
Do you see the priest sitting there, watching everything? You must learn to observe your roles so that you will be outside of them. You are such an observer, but you have forgotten it.
Ruslan was silent, pondering over his companion's words, while the dwarfs again stood in a triangle in a clear order.
What does this triangle mean?
These are the three main forces: active, passive, and neutralizing. It is their combination that creates these 12 archetypes. Roles. Any role depends on the ratio of your energy to the energy of the collective. Shh. That knowledge will come to you later, but for now, it's time to die.
He waved his hand, and Ruslan found himself back on the straw bedding inside the dolmen. He could not tell whether he was asleep or awake, whether he was alive or dead. Thoughts and images that he had thought were his own were rushing around him. But now he saw where each thought, each image, each impression, reaction, habit had come from. All this had once come to him from the outside. From parents, friends, educators, from books, from the TV screen. Often, the first impressions became the basis for evaluating the subsequent ones. He considered the oldest and most often repeated ones to be himself.
Who am I?
He began to wonder, but felt only emptiness inside him.
Where am I? Where am I? I don't exist. I'm dead. I don't exist. Let me out of here. I want to get out. I want to get out.
He looked around and saw the familiar clearing, the tent, Naya, but it was all alien, unreal.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Let's go to the tent. Look at you. You've got gray hair. Soon, you'll remember everything, and everything will be all right.
When Ruslan woke up in the morning, he couldn't come to his senses for a long time. Naya suggested that he come out of his fast, but he didn't feel like eating. He was lost and did not know how to live.
Who am I? I realized that nothing is mine, that everything is taken from somewhere else. Thoughts, feelings, habits. How to live now, and why? Who will live? It turns out that this alien thing lives in me. Or I live in other people's things. Where am I?
You didn't notice the most important thing. Who was looking at these alien thoughts, suggestive reactions, borrowed habits? If you haven't been there, no one would have seen it.
Yes. So, who am I? The one who sees it?
What about it? You're just a seeing witness of it all. Try to be in that state more often, when you see and understand everything. Now, let's go for a walk. You need to get moving to regain your senses. Do you see a nice waterhole? Watch how the river swirls the water in it. It's not deep here. Swim. Swirl around in the current. It will help you come to your senses.
Ruslan began to swim with pleasure, spinning in the whirlpool as if in a merry-go-round, and began to rejoice like a child.
We have to go.
I can't conceive a child. It's already the second miscarriage. I don't know what to do.
Don't worry, my dear. It means the time has not come yet. You don't need to hurry with it. After all, the main thing is not just to give birth, but to attract a great soul for incarnation. And this requires a special combination of stars. God tells you with this situation that you have to prepare yourself to attract such a soul. That is why you cannot yet conceive. But I have very good news for you. Soon, Prajna will do a great ritual that you can take part in. She will do it in a special place of power, a place where an ancient temple is still preserved. But the way there is difficult. I've already arranged it, and they'll give us quadricycles and buggies to test drive.
Oh, thank you! I'm so anxious to see her, for she has lifted me up, and Arthur has told me so much about this woman.
At the appointed time, the caravan of ATVs and buggies set off. When the arduous journey to the place of power came to an end, the companions came to a clearing where Prajna was waiting for them. They threw off their backpacks and clothes and happily washed themselves in the waters of the waterfall, collected firewood, and made a fire.
This is an unusual time, the summer solstice. The most powerful rituals have always been performed at this time. Just now, the cosmic influence of the sun on the earth is intensifying, and a new program is being set, which we can contribute to by performing rituals.
Mira told Prajna about Alice's problem of conceiving.
Yes, Solstice Day is perfect for that. And today before the solstice, in the evening, we will conduct a ritual of sacrifice to get rid of all unnecessary, negative, bad habits. And tomorrow morning, for the attraction of a great soul, for conception. Tomorrow's ritual is a ritual to attract any desires.
Prajna explained how to prepare for the rituals, and the people, seated in a clearing, began to bake together the bread to be offered as a sacrifice during the ritual. In the evening, when it began to become dusk, everyone went to the sanctuary. A fire was burning around it in a special trough, as if separating the sanctuary from the world of people by a wall of flame, the fiery river Smorodina. But at one place, the fire was not burning. There was a bridge of Calamus, which represented the entrance to the world of the gods. After reciting the incantation, the people followed Prajna into the sanctuary beyond the wall of fire. There were 3 ancient idols and an altar in front of them, where fire was also burning. Having performed the ritual of sacrifice, people felt relief. Having parted with their negativity, diseases, vices, and bad habits, surrendering them to the sacred fire together, with the sacrifice in the form of recently baked bread. The next day, people began to prepare for a new ritual to attract wishes from the morning, and also baked bread together.
Why do we celebrate Ivan Kupala on the 22nd of June and not on the 7th of July, as the Christians do?
The fact is, it is the solstice day, and the priests have forgotten about it because they reject astrology. Since they did not take into account there are not exactly 365 days in the year, but a few hours more, they accumulated 2 weeks of time difference, and all the holidays of Orthodoxy were also shifted by 2 weeks. The Catholics were a little more aware, and they have no such displacement. They celebrate both Ivan Kupala and Christmas more or less correctly, although they don't take into account that there are still small shifts in dates, and they celebrate always on the 22nd. But the solstice always comes differently, in the interval from the 21st to the 23rd day. Therefore, it's necessary to check all dates with astrological indications, and not just blindly follow a calendar.
When the preparations were complete, the spiritual disciples, led by the tutor, went to the sanctuary again. There were 3 idols standing just like the first time. In the center was Rod, the main god who gave birth to the whole world. His body was divided into 3 parts, 3 worlds: Pravi, Yavi, and Navi. Pravi, the worlds of the gods or the worlds of the future. Yavi, the earth world or the world of the present. And Navi, the world of the ancestors or the world of the past. The very body of Rod formed a square, symbolizing the 4 sides of the world, the 4 elements that made up the entire creation. To the right of Rod was the idol of Svarog, and to the left the idol of Lada, the gods of harmony who maintain order in these worlds. In front of Rod there was a sacrificial stone, and a little farther, Krada, a fire pit for burning the sacrifice. People stopped in front of the idols and began to pass the bread around the circle, making a wish. At the same time, they thought about what they would sacrifice to fulfill this wish. Someone wanted to sacrifice his own laziness. Someone was going to give money for a children's center. someone decided to do spiritual practices for an hour every day. One could wish for anything that would help to live and develop better in this world. Then, the bread was placed on the altar, and Prajna recited an incantation over it and offered it to Rod. The same was done with a cup of kvass. Then, after sprinkling the kvass on the bread, Prajna put it on the fire, and the bread was quickly taken up, releasing puffs of smoke to the sky. Alice looked up at the smoke and saw in it the face of her future child. She was overjoyed and greeted him, folding her hands in a gesture of prayer. In the evening, she and Arthur secluded themselves in a hut on the sacred place to conceive a child.
Now we will have the future savior of mankind, the great Messiah. As soon as the child is able to understand human speech, at about 7 years old, they can be hypnotized. For example, to relieve fright if they were bitten by a dog, or to cure bedwetting, sleepwalking, to remove fears, insecurity, to remove mental trauma or anxiety, which often adults themselves instill, scaring the child or saying, "You are small. You will not succeed." Unconsciously, even without hypnosis, they set the kid up with a lot of attitudes, sometimes very harmful, which cripple the child's psyche. And then they wonder why the child is sick, does not obey, does not learn well. They wonder why the child has psychological problems. All of this happens because of thoughtless indoctrination. And adults would have to know how it all works and how to remove negative attitudes afterwards. A child is very suggestible, hypnotizable, and instead of putting them in a corner, frightening them, depriving them of love or their favorite toys, or even feeding them with neuroleptics and tranquilizers, you can just hold a session of gyud, or simply lovingly stroke their heads to give the right attitudes. It's especially bad when there are contradictory attitudes going on. For example, Dad says, "Don't be a coward and bravely take on the task." And Mom says, "What are you going to do? Didn't you think that you're still small? You won't be able to do it." This is how neuroses, mental deviations, and, as a consequence, diseases arise.
Listening to you, I just wonder how parents are allowed to have children without special training. After all, this is how many maimed destinies.
Of course, but what I told you is only 1% of bad parenting. And it brings a lot of pain and grief, loss and disappointment. From it grows crime, alcoholism, and drug addiction. And when it concerns millions of people, it leads to wars, revolutions, pogroms, violence, and destruction of all achievements of civilization. Therefore, instead of useless study of algebra, trigonometry, valences, and the structure of the atomic nucleus, people should be taught psychology, suggestion, hypnosis, principles of a healthy lifestyle, and other important disciplines directly related to real life while they're at school. By the way, this was the case in ancient times. People were trained in just such disciplines. To this day, people in Tibet are still trained in astrology and Tibetan medicine, and also religion. After all, in any religion, these are all things about correct suggestion, psychology, revealing abilities, harmonious relationships in the family. But it is a pity that modern priests don't know this. Instead, they learn over 6 dead languages. They conduct their services in languages not understandable to modern people. And they're so far from what they do. Hence the spiritlessness of modern society. and the abundance of these so-called sects that arise that these priests fight against. But how can sects not arise? After all, they carry the knowledge that should be carried by the ministers of the cult, and people are hungry for true knowledge. But instead of the priests themselves learning esotericism, they act by political methods, simply seeking to ban everything, to vilify, and to intimidate the people.
Arthur and Ruslan listened attentively to the tutor, fully sharing her regret about the lack of proper education and upbringing in society.
Ruslan, I've heard that there's going to be a rap festival in our town soon, and you're a DJ there. Could you organize my performance before the concert?
What do you want to say?
I want to explain to people the senselessness of the modern form of education. After all, think about it. Now science is developing so fast that our textbooks are instantly outdated. They lag behind modern knowledge by an average of 10 years. And this gap is growing. Why, you might ask, should we memorize material that is no longer relevant and that no one will need? I see this as a special plan of the dark forces, just like with television, a way to make fools out of people.
Wait, I understand it, but you're going to have a child. Why would you get involved in all this? Do you remember how it ended the first time?
Yes, I remember, of course. But I can't keep silent anymore. I can't hide the truth. And I'm asking you to help me, friend.
The young people of the university gradually gathered in the spacious hall, waiting for the rap festival to start. The musicians were already setting up the equipment on the stage when Arthur stepped up and took the microphone.
Friends, we are all students now, and before that we all went to school. But think, why are we doing this? If even an excellent student, after sleepless nights before the exam, exhausting themselves with cramming and consuming liters of energy drinks to stay awake, having received an A on the transcript, immediately forgets everything they've crammed. And everybody knows it, but this vicious system continues to work. Who makes us do this Sisyphean labor? Why are we not taught to think, to create, to develop imagination, to find solutions to complex problems by straining our brains? Why are we not taught to practice? In the past, if a person wanted to be a painter or an architect, they went to be an apprentice of someone who could do it, and learn by experience. Practically, they did not sit and cram 10 years of textbooks, but the whole point is that a thinking person is dangerous. Such a person can see all the imperfections of society, the evil forces that rule it. One can find a way out of the situation and change the world. But such a free-thinking person is not acceptable to the ruling power, which fights against any dissent, whether it is a sect or an honest thinker who sees the real state of affairs and does not want to keep silent about it. For such reasonableness will destroy the system of hidden slavery, where instead of chains, slaves are bound by attitudes, conventional wisdom, authorities, traditions, lies, and promises of politicians. The question is, where do these chains live? And they are precisely located in memory. Consequently, the more emphasis on memory and less on reason and creative thinking, the more obedient and controllable a person is. That's why, from the nursery school onward, we strive to develop only memory. No one will say, think, find a solution, how to make it better for you and everyone around you. On the contrary, they will say, mind your own business. There is someone to think for us. There is someone who will decide how we should live and what we should do. That is why many people, when they find themselves in a non-standard situation, get lost. They have not learned to think, cannot find a way out. And because of this, they cannot earn money or achieve anything in life. Going to work for the man who can think, but often thinks only about himself, and how to rob those around him. Therefore, I advise you to quit useless education and go to learn from people who will teach you to think, to create yourself, create your life, to explain the true laws of life management, not algebra and trigonometry. And maybe such people are now called sectarians, detached, psychotic, and stigmatized in every possible way, or silence their existence. But only they can help you to develop your mind and see this world really, not through...
Several big guards climbed onto the stage, grabbed Arthur under his arms, and started dragging him down. When he was taken away, the organizer of the festival came out and said that a mentally unhealthy person was performing in front of them, that he had a brain injury, so there was no need to listen to him. He offered to start the concert, but the people were outraged and beer cans flew onto the stage. Bring him back!
We want to hear him.
He's not the one who's crazy. You are. Enough of making fools of us.
We want to know the truth.
At that time, Arthur was dragged to the police. The administrator wrote a report against him, saying that he became disorderly and had attacked the guard, even though Arthur had put up little resistance. After the incident at the rap festival, representatives of the special services urgently gathered to decide what to do with Arthur.
We should put him in jail for a long time.
I think it is premature, so we'll make a folk hero out of him, and we have publicity, democracy. First, we need to discredit him in the eyes of the public, to fabricate dirt against him and against those with whom he is associated. They brought me information that there are two groups, some Lyria and Naya, to which he belongs. So, it is necessary to make them all look bad. They are drug addicts. They practice fraud, debauchery. People get bad after communicating with them. Someone even died. We need to find people who will agree to become victims for money, so we can accuse them of terrorism and the like. And when there will be a lot of negative information about them in the media, when people will start to turn away, thanks to this slander and vilification, then we will start to imprison Arthur and those who will try to open people's eyes to the truth like him. It's not the 37th year anymore. It's not the Inquisition. This is the time of information wars, and the main thing here is to destroy not the person, but their reputation, their good name, to discredit them in the eyes of the public, and, by their example, all the other truth-tellers who have a loose tongue, or may have one in the near future.
My dear ones, today is a very important moment in the life of our Earth, its future, and therefore, our children's future, is being decided. The forces of evil are not slumbering on the Earth. There is a lot of negative energy and false information. Old good movies and cartoons, on which we were educated, joining with good, have disappeared from the screens. They have been replaced by scenes of horror and violence, scenes of constant war and destruction, stories about ghouls, demons, and vampires. The same themes are supported in computer games. Children's toys in the form of various monsters appear from the basis of modern computer games. The child is thus placed in a destructive atmosphere of aggression, destruction, violence, and images of the lower demonic world. Children have almost no contact with nature. It has been replaced by an artificial urban world with dead energy. Parents, busy with work, have less and less time for soulful communication with their children. At best, they are taught by indifferent educators, and often by people who are examples of aggression and intolerance, people who should not be allowed near children at all. School children are exposed to the negative impacts of television and computers. That's why there are so many sick, mentally retarded children with mental disabilities. And even seemingly prosperous parents can raise criminals, selfish, degenerate, affected by laziness, drug addiction, and gambling addiction. However, there is a way out of this depressing situation.
The people listened to her with awe and excitement, eagerly absorbing every word.
We, all parents and those who are preparing to become parents, even if the child has not yet been conceived, must unite together and form a field of love that will protect our children from the negative energy and nourish their beings with the highest divine energy of love. And the more we gather, the more often we do it, the more benefit we can bring to ourselves and our children. No expensive toys or games, no prestigious colleges can replace the energy of love, tenderness, kindness, and harmony for a child. No medicines and expensive clinics can give this to sick children for whom this energy is a real salvation, and a salvation from any diseases, even those considered incurable. Even very good parents alone cannot transmit as much energy to a child as they can receive from a group of people. The power of a group, according to cosmic laws, is multiplied by the number of its members. Besides, the group, unlike a single person, is able to attract the highest divine energy of the cosmos and form a phantom field from it, which, even in the absence of parents, will envelop and protect the child. And for adults themselves, there is no better practice of transformation than creating a field of love for themselves and their offspring. A child can't be alone. One needs a group of children. But what kind of community are our children surrounded by now, when even in the elite colleges of Harvard, Cambridge, and Oxford, drug use, gambling, violence, lying, and cruelty are the norm? By gathering together in a united group of creators of the field of love, we will be able to unite our children so that they not only become friends with each other, but also stay together in our nurseries, kindergartens, and schools where the educators will share the idea of the field of love and other harmonious good methods for caring for children. Now, my dear ones, the most important and decisive hour has come for us to form this good field. Sit down, forming a big circle, and place the children with babysitters and photos of your children who are not here now, with hair and fingernails from them to strengthen the astral connection in the center of this circle. Interlock your hands correctly, and let us begin our prayer to God, opening our hearts to Him and asking Him to give us and our children the energy of love. On the inhalation, fill with this energy, and on the exhalation, transfer it to the center of the circle to our children.
Alice, I see the big black cloud of negativity leaving and dissolving into the air. The children and we are cleansed.
Darling, I see a pillar of light descending on everyone.
Arthur felt a state of grace that embraced everything around him.
Arthur, look, an orb! I see a golden orb that is descending. Rays are coming from it to everyone.
Arthur tuned in and suddenly felt the same state of mind as he had when he had met the same ball of light in the cave.
I know. It is Bhagavan. He is here. He is with us.
As he spoke these words, tears of purification flowed down his cheeks. Many of the creators of the field of love present also wept with the grace that overflowed. A strong and undeniable sense of harmony and protection began to emerge, grow, and expand. It was a certainty that everything would be fine, as if something heavy and oppressive had gone, making way for light, unconditional love, and boundless joy. More and more people with children came to the next classes. Many of those who had been at the first ritual of the creation of the field of love now spoke from the stage about the miraculous results. Children's incurable illnesses disappeared. Parents began to feel better. Peace and harmony prevailed in families. Children began to learn better. Their creative abilities began to open up. Lyria taught people how to conceive, nurture, bring up children, and to discover the genius of the child in the created field of love. She talked about how to keep it in the family, in one's home, how to include other members of the family, even those who do not believe and do not attend the classes. But one day, there were far fewer people in the room than usual, and those who were there looked tense. When Lyria asked what was wrong, one of the regulars, Valentine, stepped forward and handed her a newspaper with a gruesome article about the activities of the Love Field cult. It turned out that there was a TV program defaming Lyria. Her activities were called sectarian, and her assistant Arthur was labeled a crazy debauchee. Lyria picked up a newspaper with the screaming headline, "Sex Guru Infects Children with AIDS." She was horrified to read the vicious slander and wept over the paper with her arms around her head. Arthur jumped up on the stage and, running his eyes over the article, unable to restrain his emotions, exclaimed from his heart, "I'll punish those unscrupulous journalists so that they don't dare to defame a good cause."
Calm down, Arthur. You realize that this is an order from the special services, which fight against any dissent. Journalists have nothing to do with it. They could not even write it. The article was fabricated by those who unleashed this information war.
Arthur took a deep breath, trying to calm his emotions and look at the situation from a different angle. "You're right."
People, you have been here, and you have felt the grace of creating field of love. You have seen the good changes in your families. Your children have recovered, have become more harmonious, have discovered their abilities. Why do you not trust your eyes? Do not listen to your heart, but immediately believe in a newspaper hoax. Those who wrote these false lines have not even been to our classes, have not created the field of love. What can they know about what they are writing about? The state wants to preserve its way of upbringing, its ideology, because all this keeps people in subordination, in line. After all, it is much easier to rule ignorant, unhappy people, immersed in solving their own problems, than a happy, free people.
That's right. That's right. The people who came to the next class and were not afraid of anti-propaganda fully shared Alice's words.
Any modern education does not give answers to the highly important human questions. How to be happy, healthy, how to give birth and bring up children, how to have harmony in the family and be successful in life. Answers to all these questions you get here and in other scary sects. Scary for those who are afraid that you will remove your information chains and become free. And now it is worth only to print something in the newspapers or show it on TV. And people like zombies instantly believe in this lie, even forgetting their own experience, not thinking reasonably, not trusting and not listening to their heart. And I beg you, don't be upset. We need your knowledge. We believe in you. We love you. And we ask, please, please continue to teach us, despite these intrigues of the Dark Ones. Because now, it depends on these lessons whether the field of love will be preserved, whether it will continue to help all of us and our children.
Yes, please teach us. We are with you.
We do not believe in this nonsense. We realize that this is the work of the devil, who wants to destroy the fledgling germ of a good cause.
Touched by everyone's support, Lyria began to come to her senses and called the people to universal prayer.
You have all read and heard about eternal love, but we find few examples of it in life. Let's look into this topic to clarify and realize how such love can be achieved. Or is it impossible? Nature has laid in a person the instinct of reproduction, and it is often confused with the concept of love. Its most primitive manifestation is lust. Energy is accumulated in the sexual center of a person, and he wants sex. And even if people are not suitable for each other, they can have intimacy. In this case, the man just wants to get relief, and the woman thinks as she was taught by our sick society. We'll get along. A plain one and a heart of gold. It's time. We should have children. But as a result, it does not lead to anything good.
Hearing the words of the tutor, many women began to actively express their agreement, recognizing Lyria's rightness. Some of them had tears in their eyes. They remembered their sad experiences and regretted that they had suffered for a long time, living according to the programs indoctrinated by society.
But the sexual center is a much more subtle instrument, and it is not only for reproduction. At the moment of puberty, a person's creativity, desire for knowledge, and even religious ecstasy are awakened. Raising Kundalini and mastery of subtle energy is not the subject of today's lecture, so we will focus on such a manifestation of this center as passion or love. With this great feeling, the sexual center signals that one has found the right partner. The sexual center can better discern what is needed for us, what type is right for us. But such an infallible determination can only be made by primitive peoples, completely devoid of lies, or by people who know each other well. In our habitual society, people wear masks, and so a person can be deceived. A person has an indoctrinated image of what their chosen one should be like. For example, they should be unmarried, not be a relative, belong to the same caste, behave in a certain way. Often, even jealousy of a friend makes a woman feel a semblance of a passion. But when people get closer and get to know each other, the passion disappears because it was false. Sometimes a man, in order to seize a woman, imitates passion, gives bouquets, reads someone else's poems, trying to deceive her, to use her. But should she ask him for an expensive gift, and he immediately begins to humor her, lying to her, saying that he has just gone bankrupt or that he's in favor of clean relationships, hiding his stinginess behind these lies.
Alice remembered how Arthur, a poor student, had sold the last of his money to buy her jewelry. And she looked at him expressively with a sense of feminine pride. Once again, she was convinced that she was not wrong about him. She felt grateful to Lyria, who had told her that she should choose the partner herself, not wait for a man to choose her. Her feminine intuition had not failed her, and earlier, when she had expected masculine behavior from those who paid attention to her, nothing good had come of it. She forced herself to tolerate those who approached her first, thinking that she didn't understand something, that she would feel for them later.
Sometimes a woman deceives a man too. For example, at the beginning of a relationship, she shows herself very brightly, but when she thinks she has already captured his heart, she relaxes and walks around the house in curlers, old robes, no makeup, causing him only rejection. And it ruins their relationship. Passion and youthful love are very important. They rejuvenate the organism. A person blossoms. Creativity and even superpowers appear in a person. Contact with God arises. That is why one should try to be in this state as much as possible. Not to calm down, And even if there is no partner, one should find an ideal for oneself in order to stay in this divine state. And if you have found a worthy partner, you should not try to get married sooner and start a family life with them. You should not let the passion and flight of love slip into depression, jealousy, or other forms of suffering because of the patterns and stereotypes of society. For example, the desire to be like everyone else. Love should be given a religious connotation, elevated, made idealistic. For example, not aimed at selfishness and possessiveness, but at serving one's ideal.
Lyria, please tell me, is it true that living together and keeping house together kills the passion in a relationship?
Yes, that's right. Passion is an energy field between two poles. If the distance between people is completely removed, the field will immediately discharge. And if there is a distance between them, the attraction of sexes will increase. This is how ancient people lived. They had male and female parts of their dwellings, even poor people, and they tried not to contact each other for nothing, to be at a distance. It helped to keep the passion alive. Even girls and boys studied and lived separately, for constant household contact makes relationships mundane and their fire dies out. It is not for nothing that there is a saying, with good friends, meet less often. In order to keep the novelty and brightness of the meeting, people should prepare for it, be filled with positive impressions, so that such a meeting was a real holiday.
Alice thought,
Arthur travels a lot. He has a business. I need to find something where I'll be filled with new impressions, so that I will have something to share when we're together. I will help the school more in creating a field of love, so that I will have something to tell Arthur when we meet.
But whatever passion is, it also has its time. And this is related to the physiology of reproduction. In a man, it can pass quickly, because his natural task is to fertilize more females. In a woman, passion lasts longer, but it also has a limit, because she needs a man while she carries and nurtures the child. But after a few years, the passion can pass, and people often stay with each other because of social templates. It's necessary to preserve the family, to live together for the sake of children. It's already old age. It's too late to change anything. But this all indicates that between them there is no real love, which exists in the emotional center and does not depend on sex. Even deeply old people can feel sympathy and deep affection for each other. This is what eternal love is, as it persists even in the world of the dead and passes into the next birth. Of course, often people do not immediately meet each other in the next incarnation. It may happen already in a mature age, but there is a former feeling between them at once. Such a feeling is a valuable gift. It arises only in people with a big heart, in kind, responsive, cheerful people. In a dry, stale egoist filled with negativity, it is unlikely to arise, and people must be like-minded to have such love.
Alice looked at Arthur with warmth and thought,
It's so good that we met in Lyria's class and have the same worldview. And now that we're developing together, it's even more solid.
In general, when people start living with each other, the emotional center takes over, and they start acting on it. There's also an expression. They didn't get along with each other. If people have constant squabbles and quarrels, fights, jealous scenes, it means that their emotional centers are not suitable for each other. They need to separate from each other, not to torment themselves. There is no need to turn your life into hell and deprive yourself of the opportunity to find true love. One should also remember that love is not subject to social patterns, which can change over time and be different from one nation to another. For example, in the East, polygamy is the order of the day, and a man can love several of his women equally. A man could be very temperamental and prone to casual liaisons, but that doesn't mean he can't love. Often, he only treats one woman seriously and just spends time with others, and you should not make him scandalous or remake him to please the templates of society. You must accept his nature if he suits you in every way and shows the stability of his love for you. Rarely, but sometimes such things happen in women. Therefore, it is necessary to remember that true love is not connected with sex, and he will have more women.
Alice thought, looking at Arthur, could she accept that he would have more women? Somewhere in the back of her mind, the answer was yes, because she felt that he was her ideal partner, and she would never want to part with him. But the other part of her, infected with the pattern, protested. How can it be so? In such cases, it is necessary to arrange a fight, hysterics, as she saw in her parents and in the movies, try to change Arthur by any means, or break up. Just thinking about it made her feel sick, tears streaming down her cheeks.
What's the matter, my love?
It's all right. I was just thinking about bad things.
She immediately realized that this pattern was created to cripple people's lives, to torment them, even when nothing was happening. 90% of all suffering arises when a person starts to tense himself up, thinking about what will happen if he falls out of love, cheats, finds someone else, leaves me. The girl realized that it is necessary to eradicate this poisonous pattern of life, and do not let play out a sick imagination created by devils to feed on the energy of suffering people. Alice clearly realized that all evil, all human suffering lies in the existence of this template. People torture themselves to conform to the imposed standards, push their children, loved ones, relatives, and acquaintances into this Procrustean bed, making them suffer too. Only the devil could invent such a cunning way of suffering. When a person tries to mutilate himself to meet the next demands of society, and mutilates others, his own loved ones, thinking that he is doing a good deed, swaddling a child when he wants to move, feeding him, depriving him of health when his body resists it, breaking the natural rhythm of his being, putting him to bed when he does not want it, depriving him of walks, love, and communication with his peers, in favor of school cramming. Parents make the child suffer so that he strives to get an unneeded A, instead of teaching him to enjoy life and do what he has a calling, a talent from God. And so, from childhood grows up a little cripple, living an unnatural life, tormented and not understanding where this torment comes from, why he has such a difficult life. And all because he is a slave, living not with what is given to him from God, but with the imposed programs of a sick society. And until he is free from this marasmus, from orientation to patterns and stereotypes, he will never be happy. And it is impossible to break free without spiritual development. After the lecture, when Arthur and Alice went outside, the girl confessed to her lover.
I understood why my father became an alcoholic, and my mother is always depressed and drinks neuroleptics. It was the social matrix that ruined them. My father wanted to be a painter and my mother a ballerina, but they were told that it was not serious, that they should work in a factory, and there was never any love between them. They just happened to meet one day, had a drink, gave in to physical desire, and the mother got pregnant. She was very much in love with another man, and the father with another woman, but they were told that they should get married because they would have a child. So they live like that, two unhappy people pouring vodka and handfuls of pills on their grief.
Yes. I wanted to get drunk as a pig too when I was preparing for the session, because it was very hard for me. I didn't want to do it. I saw the uselessness of such cramming. I wanted to drunkenly go to the university and say everything to the rector's face, but I realized that it wouldn't solve the problem.
Yes, drunkenness, drug addiction, paranoia. These are the reactions of people who feel that they're being made slaves. They're looking for a way out of this slavery, but not where it really is.
Once, Lyria and her disciples were going on a hike. Prajna invited them to the ancient place of power, where an ancient observatory was located high in the mountains. Angela, Ruslan's girlfriend, brought her grandfather. He was a sick old man of about 70, with a completely gray beard and hair. There was something refined and spiritual in his face, weary from old age and illness.
I want to go hiking with you.
Grandfather, it's a hard trek across the mountains.
Yes, I know. Angela told me. But I want to see Prajna. I want to know the truth. I am old now. I have not long time to live. But I regret that I have lived my life so miserably. And now I want only one thing, to know what I have lived for. What is the meaning of this life? This may be my last chance, and I beg you, take me with you.
Well, all right, let's go. I think the boys will help you carry your things.
The old man walked with great difficulty, panting now and then, often stopping for a break. However, his eyes showed great persistence and a decision. It was better to die than to retreat. When they were drinking herbal tea by the fire, the old man started to talk.
You know, all my life I wanted to go hiking, to be in the woods, but I kept putting it off. I had to finish university, get married, raise my children, earn money for an apartment, buy a country house, a car, and raise grandchildren. And then I reached retirement. It seems that I had time, but my health was gone. I didn't have the strength to do what I wanted to do. But now I'm happy that I went after all. And even though I can't enjoy hiking like all of you because of my health, it's better than dying on the couch. How happy you are that you don't put anything off for later, but live life the way you want to live it. Later will never come. There is only now. Later means I'm sick and old, that can't do anything anymore, and getting ready to die. Don't postpone life. Live now. There is nothing ahead.
The old man's reverent story impressed the students. They tried to support him in every possible way, but at the same time, they felt the transience of time and the necessity to live in the moment, here and now. But here, a marvelous mountain lake appeared before the travelers. and next to it spread out a flat plateau, above which, as if some fairy tale giant had stuck huge blocks of stone onto the ground, forming two circles, one inside the other. This was the ancient observatory. The disciples did not notice Prajna approaching them. The old man fell on his knees before her and wept. Prajna lifted him up and asked him what was the matter. Ivanich told her how he had lived a mediocre life, and now he did not know what to do.
Here it is, a pernicious example of the devil's pattern. The man was not living the life he wanted, not the way he wanted, not the way God had commanded him. He was imposed a program and made to think that it was his desire to graduate from university, then to get married, have children, work to buy a car, an apartment, a country house, and everything else. But university is useless. They don't teach anything really useful for real life. And it turned out that the man remained in ignorance and continued to suffer. And instead of traveling and hiking, he worked in 2 shifts, saving money for a furniture set like his neighbor had, but in 1 month stopped noticing this furniture at all.
Yes, it was.
But surely the forest was close by, and you could go there every day for mushrooms. In fact, every person can realize this devil's pattern and see what he wants without imitating his neighbor. What are his true desires, and start to fulfill them without waiting for retirement, living here and now. You don't need to be rich and earn millions to enjoy life. Celebrate and dance right today, without any reason, without postponing or waiting. No one will give us happiness until we start to tune into it ourselves, until we find something and friends that make our heart content. You cannot learn this at university.
You know, if people think about what they want to do, the first thing they will think of is bad habits. They will not want to go to the forest, but to drink, get stoned, eat, lie on the couch, and watch zombie TV.
You are right, Ruslan. Since childhood, society's templates and malicious programs have disfigured the human being, destroyed his essence. And a person needs to restore it. In the classes with Lyria, you learn to rejoice in the things that come from God. Nature, prayer, communication with light people. Until the pattern is destroyed, a person cannot realize what he really wants. There are exceptions when especially strong personalities feel their purpose. But most people need cleansing from the corrosive influence of a sick society in order to find joy in what will be good for themselves and others.
People, this is the truth.
Get up, old man.
Be appeased. What has distressed you so much?
I am old. My body is weak. I can't even be joyful and happy like I used to be. I'm in pain all the time. God didn't give me time to fix things. Why did He create old age and death? It is only at the end of life that a man realizes that he has lived his life for nothing. But when he realizes this, he has no chance to change anything.
Don't worry, old man. When a person is young, he is intoxicated with power. He is full of energy. And like a madman, he does not think about life. But with each passing year, his energy wanes and he begins to sober up. It is old age and illness that allow a person to look at life realistically, to see it truthfully. And if a person does not brush aside this bitter truth, but comprehends it with his whole being, without trying to forget himself in whine or worries and excuses that he lives for the sake of his children, this understanding will pass with him into the next life.
Yes, you are wise. I thought, what's the use? I live for my children. My parents lived for me. My children will live for their children. But who will just live, be happy, and enjoy life? If we all have been living for thousands of years just to raise our offspring while putting our own lives on hold.
You see, Ivanich, you have seen this truth. Yes, this is a part of the devil's matrix, when a person lives all the time for the sake of something else, building communism, the triumph of Islam, future generations. But a person does not think about why he is here. Who is he really? What is his mission except to be another step of the Tower of Babel? Yes, we are compelled to seek our bodies for food and shelter. But that doesn't mean we have to be limited to it. The meaning of life is to realize the truth, and above all, to know oneself, God in oneself. Only this can bring eternal bliss to any human being.
This time, Prajna was not alone. She introduced to the visitors the holder of ancient knowledge, Shamaness Atinza. The mound was surrounded by individual megaliths and the moss-covered ruins of an ancient temple.
Ancient people knew that a man, dying physically, continues to live in the subtle world, where he has powers and abilities inaccessible to us, the main of which is omniscience. And, realizing this, they wanted to keep in touch with their ancestors, especially with the most prominent of them, priests and shamans, as they could help those living on Earth in many ways. To establish such a connection, ancient burials in the form of mounds, mausoleums, and pyramids were made. Ancient people kept stupas with a part of Buddha's remains, kept in temples holy relics or any other objects belonging to a saint or a magician. Through this, they kept in touch with his subtle body. Even modern church funeral services and parents' days, when people visit cemeteries, are echoes of such rituals, the meaning of which has long been forgotten. There is another effective way of transmitting the energy of the dead in order to get help from them and also to help them. It is prayer for the deceased, accompanied by a request to them. Group prayer in which people have strong, sincere feelings is especially powerful. If a person turns to the light powers, saints, great priests, deceased shamans, then his goal should be altruistic. He should tune in to the good, to help people, to do something good, and light for everyone. Now formulate your wishes as clearly as possible, and we will begin the ritual.
Arthur could not immediately decide what he wanted, and finally decided to ask for a plan to organize that the spirit would help him to realize this plan. And, in gratitude, he decided to give all the received surplus money for the creation of the Children's Center of Lyria, Field of Love. They lay down on the ground and merged with the spirit of the place, then walked around the mound 3 times around the sun, sat down on its northern side facing south, and began to pray for the deceased. Suddenly, it seemed to everyone that the mound became alive. Suddenly, the wind blew, and Alice saw a whirlwind going into the sky above the center of the mound.
Now ask for your wish.
Arthur began to pray and waited for the plan to reveal itself to him. He felt some energy on the top of his head that gave him a state of clarity, but no thoughts or images came.
What is it? Where is the plan?
I wanted the spirit to give me a business plan, but no thoughts came to me. What does that mean?
It gave you the energy to make a plan. And when you start thinking, it will appear, because now you have what is called inspiration or clarity of mind to see it. All wishes do not come true immediately, but if the spirit helps, they will definitely be realized.
It was time to prepare for the astrological ritual, and the students went for ablution.
If youth knew, if old age could. Oh, that's cold water.
The water washes away all the harmful emanations from a person. That's why in India they do ablutions all the time. And even Arabs in the desert, where there is no water, wash their feet before namaz.
Yes, indeed. I feel so light, as if I had cleansed myself of something.
The night of the full moon had come, and people were seated in the ancient observatory in a certain order, preparing to accept the cosmic influence.
The Earth is intimately connected with the cosmos, and at certain moments, planetary influences descend from there to the Earth. And if at that moment you create a program of thoughts, images, and emotions, it will be strengthened by this influence and will be embodied on the Earth. In the past, people knew it well. That's why many rituals were performed at full moon, when the moon forms a certain interaction with the sun and the Earth, and its influence is especially strong. Both moonless nights and eclipses are also important, but they are destructive, and in these moments it is good to discard everything unnecessary. Bad habits, bad relationships, diseases, unnecessary contacts, and bad thoughts. But in the modern world, only Easter and Catholic Christmas occur during such influences, and birthdays, if a person celebrates them on the right day. But what program does he set during drunkenness, general debauchery, and senseless state? Only destructive. That's why we all live so badly. The ancients sacredly honored all such dates and conducted rituals during them. That's why it's said they lived in a golden age. And although they did not have atomic bombs, they had the knowledge that gives prosperity and happiness, now lost by people. And this is what the ancient priests taught their neophytes. And if modern universities do not give this knowledge, they will not be useful, and even on the contrary, will cause harm to people. After all, technical progress without spiritual progress has brought the Earth to the threshold of destruction. Now let us perform a ritual to rejuvenate the elder Ivanich, because he needs help now more than any of us, so that he has time and health to complete his life spiritually. Imagine him young and healthy, and at the moment of moonrise, when the moon's rays pass between the two guard slabs, send this image, bursting with good energy, to him.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I'll die peacefully as it is. I'd rather let this ritual help other unfortunate people.
No, old man, it is not for nothing that God brought you here. This ritual is for you.
They sat down and, repeating the mantra with concentration, began to cultivate the desired image. After a while, the students felt that a special flow was forming around them, and the whole space was filled with a shimmering energy field. Alice, as one of the most sensitive students, saw the crossing spirals of cosmic currents. The moon was rising. The disciples gathered in the clearing, and, by Prajna's sign, chanted a mantra. In the morning, Ivanich was unrecognizable. It was as if he had become 10 years younger, moved and talked more vigorously, swam across the lake, and helped to gather wood for the fire. When everyone had settled down for a tea of healing herbs, Lyria asked Prajna,
"What is the rejuvenation and aging of the body connected with?"
First of all, it is connected with the work of Svadhisthana chakra, for example, the sexual center. It is clear that when a person is sexually mature, it is a sign that they have become an adult. And when the activity of the center stops or decreases, they become old and prepare for death, as the body has fulfilled its program of reproduction. Some primitive cultures die immediately after reproduction, giving room for new individuals. The human body has almost the same mechanism, except that humans are designed to reproduce repeatedly. But the work of Svadhisthana can be renewed and strengthened by special Sampo exercises. Women go through menopause, wrinkles are smoothed out, the body becomes younger. Men also regain lost sexual function and return 10 years back. Yesterday's ritual is a part of this ancient system, and I will show it to you and Ivanich. It is closely connected with the acceptance of cosmic influences.
And at what age does a person's sexual energy usually awaken?
There is no proper sexual culture now. A child is sexually mature by about 14, that is, an adult. But his upbringing is directed that he should mature only by 18. And this creates a conflict between body and upbringing. The child wants to prove his adulthood, his independence, and the so-called difficult age begins. He rebels, wants to be recognized as an adult. He starts smoking, drinking, swearing, showing aggression to prove that he has grown up, and he falls into the trap of bad habits. And aggressive challenges can lead to crime. In weak children, there are mental deviations, like schizophrenia, because the body dictates one thing, and education keeps it in the net, and there becomes an internal conflict. In ancient times, much earlier a person was recognized as an adult, somewhere by the age of 14, and the child's desire to assert himself was directed in the right direction. Boys were prepared for initiation into manhood through trials. They had to survive alone in the forest, kill a beast, endure any difficulties. The child prepared for this and channeled his sexual energy into a positive direction, mastering weapons, acquiring the ability to survive. and other useful skills. In modern society, this can be replaced by sports, not only physical, but also mental. When a child achieves certain results, they're considered an adult. But it should not have such a detrimentally formal character, as is currently practiced at schools. Because of this, such competitions are often rejected by adolescents, considered something imposed on them and not corresponding to their reality. The same should be true for girls, only in their sphere. Otherwise, they just dream of a prince, having read books, and at the same time still playing with dolls, not preparing for real life, to a sober look at the partner and the art of interaction with him. Because of which, many marriages are almost immediately broken up, and the rest live in squabbles and scandals, torturing each other and not understanding how to live in love and harmony, because it is not taught, neither in school nor in university, and parents talk only of storks and cabbage without preparing their children for life together.
After the spiritual talk with Prajna, the practices of merging with the elements and trees began in a pure place far away from people. They were particularly impressive and brought the disciples a new, unusual, and very valuable spiritual experience. Ivanich embarrassedly admitted that he had a sexual desire.
This is normal. Your rejuvenation is in progress, and this energy will be used to improve your body.
I will become younger, but what is the use of it? I don't know how to live and what to do. I was taught only to work like a wild beaver and provide for my family. But that can't be the purpose of life. Then how am I better than an animal?
Yes, you are right, old man. People have no real culture. They don't know why they live. They don't even know what the word culture means. It consists of 3 parts: Kult, Yu, and Ra. That is to cultivate only those qualities that God has. That is Ra, the main god of Egypt, the sun god, or more simply the cult of light, spiritual light.
Oh, what kind of cult is this?
Everyone has a spark of God, a part of God. More precisely, you are this particle of God in its embryonic state, Atman, spirit. And your task is to create such a gap between you and your mind, feelings, and body. But it is difficult to do this. And the first step on this path is to make the spark ignite a flame of love, grace, compassion, repentance, joy, happiness, and other higher emotions. Culture. Culture should serve to awaken them. In other words, songs, poems, literature, music, theater, temples, worship. Sublime emotions will not come by themselves. They must be cultivated through works of art, religion, spiritual practices, merging with nature. In books and movies, the protagonist is resentful, envious, vengeful, fearful, jealous, greedy, possessive, selfish. This is often justified by the struggle for justice, war with evil, and the like. Naturally, being brought up on such culture, a person, instead of sublime emotions and awakening of the divine I, becomes an embodiment of negative qualities and thoughts. There is, of course, religious literature like biography of saints, ancient fairy tales, and legends. But now, such literature is very little used in the education of children. These tales taught the good, lofty emotions, sacrifice, and self-sacrifice, and it is necessary to search for and nurture these sublime states in ourselves and in children. In our society, there's absolutely no intelligent literature that would show the real work on ourselves. It might even seem wild to a modern person.
Wild? How? Why? After all, it teaches goodness, spirituality.
Yes, but it is incomprehensible to people. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, Shakespeare's famous tragedy of Othello. A slanderer whispers to him that his wife, Desdemona, has cheated on him, and Othello decides to kill her without even investigating it. I would write it differently. Othello listens to the slanderer. Jealousy and vindictiveness arise in him, but he decides to work himself and thinks.
Jealousy makes me feel the pattern instilled in me as a child. I was trained to react that way, but I don't want to be a puppet of the stereotypes of a sick society. I want to get rid of my selfishness and look at the situation from a position of love. If Desdemona cheated on me, maybe I didn't satisfy her as a man, and I need to become a better man to give her what she lacks. Maybe I didn't give her enough gifts, didn't give her enough attention, didn't pamper her, didn't tell her I loved her. I need to fix myself. Tighten up. Get better. Or maybe she is just putting up with me because of the pattern, that it is necessary to keep the family. Then I will talk to her. If it is difficult for her with me, then maybe it is better to divorce. Why should she force herself to play the role of a wife if she doesn't want to? Because I love her, and I want her to be happy. And I'll do anything to make her happy. If that's what she wants, let them get married. I'll even help them with that, organize the wedding. But the main thing is to talk to her kindly, to find out what she wants, what's bothering her.
Yes, and even that's not all. When Othello would have talked to Desdemona, it would have turned out that he was a victim of slander, and they would have laughed together at the slanderer, pitying him, that instead of being happy, he lives in slavery to negative emotions, and is constantly forced to lie to himself and others to achieve foolish goals that will not give him happiness, but only more confusion in life. Then the spouses would go to him and try to explain the truth in a kind way.
Genius.
Yes, you see, my dears, there is no such literature. It would look inadequate. It would not support the pattern of a sick society created to generate negativity, to justify violence and war. After all, these stereotypes were created by the dark demons to feed on the suffering of people, and all works of such culture now belong to them and serve their purposes. Therefore, we need to revive the ancient culture and create a new, modern culture based on the principles of love and perfection. Then the whole society will be able to change, because it is culture. In other words, movies, books, TV, radio, variety shows, that creates a person's worldview, teach him or her to react to life in one way or another, to perceive themselves in the world in a certain way, and practically educate the human soul.
After these words of Prajna, the old man wept inconsolably.
What happened, Ivanich?
I realized that I had lived my whole life for nothing. I had been made a fool. And now I had so little time and energy to change and attain perfection. Instead, they show us lies, teach us negativity and evil, stun us with stupid programs and soap operas that make us sick. How long will we endure the devil's machinations? After all, I could live like millions of people and not even know about the truth.
Yes, you are right, old man. But this is a new time. The fate of the earth depends on us alone, on those who have learned the truth. We need to affirm it within ourselves and convey it to all the people of earth before it is too late, before the end of the world comes. True culture begins with the transformation of the self, but person in his present state can do nothing. But he must try to remember, to remind himself and others. And in this way, by the common effort and help of God, person can change. Prayers are an important means of such reminding and changing. But there are few real prayers, and they must be understood. One must learn to say them with the heart, with the whole being, and not only with the tongue. And today, I will give you the prayer of my Master, which he received from God in silent samadhi, and which he has already translated for us into the clumsy language of the earth. Listen, people, to the message from heaven. God, help me wake and rise with grace, to see myself and know my place, to free my heart from lies and sin, to serve you, Lord, with peace within. Reveal your will and grant me sight, to humbly follow in your light. Teach me forgiveness and let me grow. With a love for all, let kindness flow. Let me dissolve in your embrace, forever filled with boundless grace. May it be so. For your name and good, I accept. I follow as I should.
It seemed to Arthur that a great insight descended upon him in every line, but immediately vanished. He could not hold on to it.
Gradually we will study every word of this prayer, so that you may be in the states it speaks of. This has to be learned every day, every minute, and the love and grace of God will give you strength to learn it. Therefore, concentrate on sublime emotions. Start from them so that you have energy and mood to perform all other actions, prayers. This is how you will achieve the true inner culture that will make you God, men.
In a picturesque forest clearing by a crackling fire, Naya sat surrounded by her students, answering their questions and explaining the knowledge to them.
Tell me why I was happy in my childhood, and all my friends and acquaintances say that they were happy in their youth. Now I seem to have everything. A house, a car, a family, a good income, but the state of joy has left me.
That's the problem of all people. The thing is that a child, unlike adults, is still free. He shows his individuality. But as he grows older, adults impose a generally accepted pattern of behavior on him and force him to follow it.
Hey, you! What do you want? Why are you staring at my phone? Hey, lady, take your kid away. He's invading my personal space.
With threats, persuasion, carrying out their desires.
How many times do I have to tell you? Don't go near strangers. How can you be so clueless? Sit still. Enough.
Often the child himself, trying to appear as an adult, copies this pattern from parents and people around him. And gradually he loses himself. His individuality becomes a dead, faceless robot, but like everyone else. But God created him unique. God does not make identical people. He creates bright individualities, but society does not need them. It needs soldiers, all in the same uniform, soullessly following the commands of their superiors and marching in step towards the next massacre. It needs stupid labor force that works hard and fulfills its task.
But not all people accept these templates so easily. There are different youth subcultures. Hippies, punks, emos, gothics. They protest. They just go against the template of a sick society.
Yes, you're right, Ruslan. When a child's mind begins to form, he sees the ugliness of society, its lies, its falsity and mechanics, its lifelessness. He begins, somehow or other, to resist the imposed pattern. But his resistance is spontaneous, unplanned. Often he cannot even formulate it. He simply feels that he cannot and does not want to live like everyone else. But society continues to press from all sides and finishes its dark business. Many teenagers become complacent and become a grey mass, subject to the pattern.
But there are spiritual movements, where people fight the template, develop a real vision of themselves and the world.
Yes, Arthur, there are such movements, which the proponents of the system have now labelled as sects and are actively fighting against them. Of course, not every spiritual movement teaches real vision. Most of them have long forgotten about it and teach their own tradition, that is, a slightly different pattern, not very different from the generally accepted one.
But what does one do to free oneself from the pattern?
First of all, it is necessary to study it, i.e., to keep track of patterned thoughts, stereotypical reactions, public opinions, habits, and conditioned emotions. For example, praised, joy, scolded, offense. And it is better to observe oneself when a whole group does it, because from the outside you can see more clearly what you are identified with, what is ruining you. And we can point out to each other these mechanisms built in by upbringing, which are alien to the human soul. We should try to separate ourselves from it, to see it from the outside, to trace how this disease has penetrated us, through whom, through what. And even better, to exaggerate it to the ridiculous and have fun, make jokes about themselves, because laughter, it is the best way to dissociate. It is always difficult to separate ourselves from evil if we take it seriously. Then your individuality will begin to awaken from under the garbage and debris of the pattern, and the happiness and joy of life lost in your youth will begin to return to you again. The feeling of importance, pride, swagger, as well as self-pity, self-humiliation, depression. These are crutches, props on which the templates and stereotypes of society are based, which help the ruling elite to keep everyone in the grip of the dark forces, to suck negative emotions and suffering out of us. Imagine that a healthy person is forced to walk on crutches, saying that it is fashionable, prestigious, that everyone does it. And he learns to walk on crutches, but at the same time, his legs atrophy, and he can't start moving on his own legs right away. He has to learn it all over again. And it's not easy. It takes time. Another plague is the feeling of guilt, which we have been deliberately inculcated by calling some natural manifestations of the essence sinful. If we were indoctrinated that touching the tip of our nose is a sin, we would be afraid to touch it, ashamed of this desire, feeling guilty. So very many harmless human manifestations have been labelled as sinful, such as nudism. A small child wants to walk without clothes. They bother him. but he is instilled with a sense of guilt, and he begins to feel ashamed of his body. Although in many wild tribes people walk naked and it does not cause a problem for anyone.
But won't they take me to a mental hospital? For example, if I do what I want and stop following patterns, even if it doesn't hurt anyone.
They could take you away as well. A mental hospital is one of the ways to force a person into a pattern.
But what to do then? It turns out that a person can't give up patterns, even if he wants to.
There are 3 ways you can get rid of society's malicious programs and patterns. The first is suicide. Representatives of the emo subculture once talked a lot about it. The second way is to become a hermit, because even in a monastery the priests will impose their templates on a person. And the third way is to become a disciple of Sampo. That is an actor and at the same time a spectator of one's life. A Sampo disciple knows the pattern in himself and in others perfectly well, but for the sake of appearances, he can play the right role to be adequate in any circumstances. But at the same time, he knows that it is a game and remains at every moment a spectator of it. He even becomes a master of such a game and can show himself in any circumstances as it will be necessary. Creating the right opinion about himself, achieving his goals faster. Thus, a person frees himself from templates and at the same time masterfully reproduces any necessary patterns, being able to embody a bum and a minister, a priest and a bandit, a policeman and a club goofball. For this he practices sans theatre, where he learns to enter into any role, not only outwardly but also energetically. For example, if he plays Christ, he tries to match him in his inner state, to abide in love and grace, to spread the teachings.
Well, couldn't we learn Sampo's methods?
Yes. We will learn this system, and right now we'll start playing sans theatre. We'll start with you, Andrej. Get on all fours and walk in circles with the face of a complete idiot.
Me? How? How could I do that? It's...
The main thing is to start. Just do it.
Andrej hesitantly got on all fours and, looking around embarrassed, began to make funny faces. Everyone present laughed out loud.
Stop! Andrej, watch your reactions. Feel how the pattern constrains you. What is preventing you? Tell me.
Well, a sense of importance. I'm the director. It's not my status to behave like that. And then there's the fear of judgment, because I can't be seen as a fool. What if they don't listen to me? What if my companions turn their backs on me?
Well, good self-observation. Now exaggerate the importance, the fear, and laugh at them.
I am important, very important. Everyone should know how important I am.
It looked very ironic, and all the students again could not hold back their ringing laughter. Andrej himself also began to laugh at the absurdity of his statement.
And now, fear.
Oh, I'm afraid. Don't judge me.
Well, now you can fill the gap with the template. and it is clear that you have fully identified and considered your role in the firm.
Yes, it's much easier somehow. I had become so attached to the role of director that I didn't even see that it wasn't me.
Good. Now get on all fours again and be a fool.
He was no longer embarrassed as he had been at first. He didn't look at anyone and started to fool around. The others even began to get the impression that he had really lost his mind.
Good, very good. Now, Arthur, play a drunken bum and speak rudely about Alice.
Me? I cannot.
Why not?
I love her. And used to behave gallantly.
Well, it's not bad that you see it, but we're playing a game and you have a game task. Stop. What are you identified with? What prevents you from playing?
Well, with the fact that I must behave nicely. Otherwise, what if Alice falls out of love?
Exaggerate these traits then.
I'm so nicely behaving myself. Alice will like me. Oh, Alice will leave me. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. What to do then?
Well, what? Did it get easier?
Yes. I could not even think that it was just a role. I couldn't separate myself from it.
Now play a bum.
Arthur got into the right character more smoothly and confidently. He began to stagger, spit on the ground, blow his nose, and then swore foul at Alice. It all looked quite natural, though there was still a certain lack of integrity.
Well, that's enough for a start. Go on, give her a hug. You love each other and that's good. But you still need to see everything that's going on inside, all the processes, fears, identifications. Now, Alice, it's your turn. Flirt with Ruslan as if offering yourself to him.
Hi.
Stop. What's stopping you?
I'm thinking about how Arthur will react. If he gets hurt or jealous and starts fighting.
Exaggerated.
Oh, what will he think? What will he say? After all, I'm so faithful, good, and he will not understand and condemn. It's awful.
She was relieved, and everyone laughed.
And now play.
Alice began to be mannerly and flirtatious with Ruslan, fixing her hair or flashing her eyes.
Not bad, but it still looks like you're doing it formally. Add sincere feelings, sexual energy.
But it's hard for me. Feelings completely possess me. I can't summon them, especially sexual energy.
Yes, now you can really see yourself, that's good. Now I'll give you one crutch. But I hope you will learn to control yourself on a deep level, and next time you will do without it. Imagine that Ruslan is Arthur and show yourself to him in an attractive way.
Yes, that makes it easier for me. Hi. What are you doing tonight?
Stop. Ruslan, what are you identifying with now? What's controlling you?
Well, I thought, this is my friend's wife, and it is not good that we are in such a relationship.
Now exaggerate.
Oh, sorry, Arthur. I almost slept with your wife.
Do you feel freer now?
The disciples nodded joyfully. It was as if they had been carrying a sack of stones on their shoulders for many years, bent over, and now they had thrown it off and squared their shoulders.
You will have to work on your repertoire of mechanical roles for a long time to finally free yourself from the slavery of the template. It is ingrained in you with your mother's milk, and it is not easy to get rid of it completely.
What do you mean? I haven't been living my own life all these years? My false personality was living instead of me, and it acted according to ready-made templates, and I lost my happiness because of this. But how can I see it? How can I become myself?
That is the true goal. Many people have gone into the forest, into the desert, into a cave, so that there their pattern could atrophy and they could recognize themselves. Among such people are Buddha, Christ, Moses. After all, freedom from the template is nirvana, the kingdom of God, enlightenment. It's no coincidence that Christ said, "You will not enter the kingdom of heaven unless you become like children. You must be born again."
So, in order to find yourself, do you have to become a hermit? Completely give up social life?
No, it's not necessary. You can achieve freedom from patterns here without leaving your normal life. That's why we hold our lectures, seminars, practical classes, and in our groups, you can get rid of templates even faster than in the hermitage. But the insidiousness of a template is that it has many roles, it divides a person into parts, does not allow him to be united, and thus weakens him.
How so?
For example, you have the role of husband, which you play when you are with Alice, the role of son, which you play with your parents, the role of university student, friend of Ruslan, victim of enemies, rival, and there are so many more different roles. And there is one part that appears here in our group and wants to develop spiritually. But when your parents come here, for example, you can switch to the role of a son and completely forget that you have fallen under the power of the template again. And you will identify with the role of a son until Ruslan comes and reminds you that we have to watch ourselves to get rid of the influence of templates. And then you'll remember your decision and start observing the role of the sun. And once you observe it from the outside, you're free of it. That's what a group is for people to help each other learn about themselves and fight the pattern. It is even funnier when a person sits alone and remembers, say, his enemy and enters the role of a victim or a rival. And he starts mentally talking to his enemy, sometimes even speaking aloud and gesticulating, being completely in the power of imagination, even forgetting that he is actually alone. So the first thing to do in Sans Theatre is to make a repertoire of your roles and start studying them. And then, not to let them take over, but to step back and try to control them. It's especially important to control your roles that involve negative emotions. They are the worst, as they destroy our lives and lead to mental and physical illnesses.
So where did the roles come from?
They were created as a result of adaptation to a certain social environment: school, family, work, friends. Of course, a person must play a role adequate to the environment, but at the same time, he must remember that it is only a game. He should observe himself and his reactions, study himself. And the group should help in this. Remind when a person forgets.
Did you hear that? Now, I'm gonna wake you up. Get ready. You won't relax like before. Yes, but you're no better. You sleep and don't remember yourself. I won't let you live in peace either.
Wait, you have to treat it compassionately, trying to help. And a person must be grateful for such help. Otherwise, the result will be excuses, lies, and a desire to hide oneself from others, to preserve one's tyrant, one's roles. This requires understanding and determination to work seriously for one's liberation. We have all been shaped by the coincidence of circumstances and other people's desires. And now, if we want happiness and joy and freedom, we need to realize that and cherish the group in which it is only possible to free ourselves from everything alien, superfluous, which makes us suffer and live someone else's life. When you make a repertoire of your roles, we will play out here the scenes peculiar to these roles. Say how you interact with teachers, superiors, friends, so that you can better see the whole mechanism and learn to manage it.
At work, when I interact with my superiors, I appear like a rabbit in front of a beast constrictor. I feel paralyzed. I can't fully demonstrate my professional skills.
Very well. Let's try to practice it. Imagine that Andrej is your boss and start to show yourself freely, speaking boldly about your suggestions and what you think you need to change to make the work better.
Alice tried it. But even in the game situation, she felt her stiffness, uncertainty, shyness in front of the boss, which was fixed in the corresponding pattern of behavior.
Now exaggerate your stiffness.
Oi, I'm afraid that I'll say something wrong, and the boss will scold me, condemn me, say that I'm stupid. Oh, how scary it is.
Alice's exaggeration was very funny, which caused another wave of laughter among the students.
You see, it's funny. Now get angry at your stiffness and say, I won't let you get in my way anymore. Imagine your stiffness as an image, as if it were standing right in front of you, and hit it as hard as you can.
Alice thought for a moment, and then began to strike fiercely into space.
That's good. Now try again. And you, Andrej, adjust your mood sternly, condemn and disagree.
In a more active fighting state, Alice began to interact with Andrej and managed not to give up when he reprimanded her.
Fine. Now add a little charm, femininity, so you don't have to be so rigid, be sly, ask, sympathize if it's appropriate.
I would appreciate such an employee.
Well, you see, this is how you can adjust all roles, all relationships, so that they bring success and benefit. In this case, the person becomes the master of himself. He is no longer ruled by complexes, phobias, and stereotypes, but he builds his life creatively.
The class about communicating with the dead began, and Naya asked for hypnagogic volunteers to come on stage. Arthur was among them. She began to ask him which of his relatives he could see. Arthur began to recount everything that was happening in his mind. He saw his great-grandmother. She was very young and beautiful. And behind her back, she had transparent wings, like a dragonfly, and she was flying. Great-grandmother showed him the house where she now lived. On the smooth surface of a beautiful mountain lake grew giant lilies in the shape of houses. In one of these flowers she lived.
I have dreamed all my life to be among the elves and live in a flower. Now my dream has come true.
Where do these flowers come from?
Everything here is created by our imagination. Imagination is a great power, and it is by it that God created our world. And we are a part of His creation, as if we were His creators. Imagination organizes the energies of the subtle world. And then these images of objects or events can materialize on the physical plane. But bad and destructive things materialize faster because it is easier to burn or blow up a house than to build it. A match or a piece of TNT is enough for that. But to build a house, you need the energy of many people, materials, time, and effort. That is why there is more evil in the physical world. And here in the subtle plane, a single thought is enough to break something or create something. It's not like that with you. Do you want me to show you the images that were created by your imagination?
Why? Is that possible?
Look, you even imagined that Alice would leave you for someone else because you are so insecure and stupid. It is very bad that you have created a weak image of yourself and connected it with Alice's departure. Now, erase it, destroy it. Imagine the exact opposite.
Arthur began to imagine burning away that negative image. He began to smash it with his astral sword. Imagining himself strong and smart with Alice, thinking that she liked him, and she wasn't going anywhere.
That's better. And now watch your mind so that it does not give birth to monster.
Arthur thanked her sincerely, and then great-grandmother smiled kindly.
And I also want to show you, grandson, where I have hidden the treasure. Though it is forbidden for us to do so, I will reveal it to you, for I know that you will use it for a good cause, not for yourself.
What is the purpose of this treasure, grandmother?
You are creating a great good for all people, especially for children, the field of love, and let the treasure be used for its needs. Look, do you remember our old village, where you were a boy, our old house?
Arthur nodded, and he and his great-grandmother were instantly transported there. They saw an abandoned village where no one had lived for a long time, and the house was completely ruined.
Yes, that's the house. And in that house there was a cellar. And in it, in the left corner from the entrance, a barrel with royal coins buried. Remember where it was? Go and get it.
I see. Thank you, grandmother. I'll use it all for a good cause. I won't take it for myself.
Then, Naya brought Arthur out of his altered state of consciousness, and he came to his senses. At the end of the class, Naya asked everyone to lie down on their mats and led a mask yud session. People flew to Atlantis to see how our ancestors lived many thousands of years ago and to talk to the priests. When the amazing class was over, people were under a strong impression. They shared their emotions for a long time and thanked Naya for the revelations she had given them. When everyone had dispersed, Arthur approached Ruslan.
You've heard the story about the treasure, haven't you? Can you help me? Let's go there, huh? We'll have to dismantle the collapsed house somehow to get to the cellar and get the coins out of there.
What if it turns out that it's all just an imagination? Maybe it's all just visions that have nothing to do with reality, and we'll be traveling so far away, and there's probably more than a day's work to be done. Are you sure it's worth it?
I don't know, friend, but I'd like to check it out. Help me if you can.
Well, all right. Just for the sake of our friendship, it's always nice to go to the countryside. Maybe we'll find something useful. In our extreme times, when the fate of the entire planet is at stake, it is crucial for the knowledge of angels and benevolent spirits to spread as quickly as possible, globally, and reach thousands of people. In this way, we can change the future of all humanity. Which is why we are addressing you, dear soul of light. Spread the knowledge about our wise books and films. Share links to videos or cartoons. All of this is available and free. Invite women to individual practices, webinars, and seminars. And the Great Spirit of Light will help you and your family.
It will direct an enormous amount of energy to fulfill all your desires. Benevolent spirits and angels will assist you and your loved ones in all matters. A thread of light and love extends from your heart to the hearts of thirsty women, and the creation of good and the dissemination of enlightened knowledge throughout the world begins. Become part of the mission of light. Help people, and God will help you.